We're going. Welcome, Kristen and Al.
Thank you, Tom.
All the way from Illinois.
Yeah, it was a long drive.
Fuck. It is a long drive. I remember going down there to your place like shit.
Yeah.
Felt
About
longer,
6.5 hours.
Felt
so
longer coming back with the trailer.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Wondering if the fucking tires are going to blow off.
I mean, that was a questionable donation.
Hey, Gary worked on it, and that thing is like right as heck now.
Awesome.
Solid.
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't know where I think, how well do you guys know Gary? You know, probably
Not
met
very.
him through the events or?
Yeah.
I'm sure we might.
Durian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
I
yeah, we
coached
know
with him
Gary.
at Margie Camp the first year.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's awesome.
He was, because you guys, that was all loaded with like triathlon equipment, right?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
He was a tri guy. Well, I
Oh,
think he
okay.
still is.
Yeah.
So some of that stuff got actually donated to triathlon organizations that he was aware of
Perfect.
in Wisconsin. So,
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, we spread the love around.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's the name of your sex tape.
I was wondering when you were going to plug that in.
Right
Nice
off the
job.
Right into it. No hesitation. Here we go. So before we get too far in, why don't you guys talk about your story. You guys are running Mudslingers endurance coaching. I'm curious because you're still working,
Yeah.
firefighter, right?
I'm a battalion chief. Todd.
Battalion chief.
Humble brag there.
Oh, that's a badass title. I got a director of adventures out. It's going to be battalion chief.
I like it. Should be.
And you were also
Yeah. I retired as a lieutenant
3 years.
2.5 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
You were still working when we met, and then retired. But you're still coaching, right? You're running the
Yeah.
coaching business. So
I guess it's more of a shift in careers.
yeah, there you go. So I guess just let's share your story a little bit, like where you've been, what you did, how did you come to start training people? Why did you start training people?
All right. You want to start?
Sure.
Okay.
So I guess I'll just a little bit about me first, and then Al can, I guess, talk about himself. So I still work in the fire service. I've been doing it coming on 21 years. Battalion chief, Sugar Grove Fire Protection District. I met Al in the fire service. I was a part-time firefighter, and that's where I met him. He worked for St. Charles, just another Chicago suburban department. And I was really I still played soccer. I played soccer at the collegiate level, and then I was really into running marathons, things like that, and met him and tried to talk him into doing an adventure race with me, but he was married at the time, so his wife was like,
It's not all
questionable.
shady here. It's just
It was honest. I was like, hey, I had heard he'd done these 24-hour mountain bike races, and I didn't know anyone else. We needed someone on my team, and
That makes sense.
so I thought of him, but he turned me down. So, fast forward a few years, he ends up, not with it was his practice wife. So he ends up-
As the training wife.
yeah, training wife. So we ultimately, hit it off and train together, get married, and we start doing triathlon and endurance events. And I think at one point we wanted to coach because no one was there for us to figure it out. I was trying to like find things in the dark, and that was hard. So we were like, hey, we should do this so that other people don't have to fumble around like we did for so long.
Yeah, and I think one of the draws for our coaching was like what she said. It didn't just include, the training program, because there's so much especially with triathlon, when you get into it, there's so much to learn. Good example, you get a new athlete and they're just so green at it. They don't know if they're supposed to wear underwear under their bike shorts, like stupid little questions like that nobody's really telling them. They're telling them, push your watts or work at a zone 2, but nobody's telling them how to buy a wetsuit, and stuff like that. So I think that was the part we felt was missing with a lot of the information that was coming to us, is like just mud, getting through that muddy water.
Well, people don't know what they don't know
Absolutely.
exactly.
when they're new, right? And you can actually help reduce that learning curve
Yeah.
by putting a light on the blank spots.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Makes
exactly.
sense. I'm curious. I want to ask you this because this came up with Paul. Paul was a miner. just inherent within that job. He had to be fit, and it's tough. It's hard. And what you guys do, what you're still doing, it seems to me, because I talked to Dan Weatherwax about this too, that some people, it seems like fitness is easier to fit into their life or maintain or more natural within their life experience because their job, sometimes their lifestyle requires it. Is there any influence of that? I'm just curious how what you do also ties to what you do through training ties to what you do professionally.
There should be.
Yeah. I would love to say that there's a level of fitness required to do your job, but there's kind of like two different types of firefighters out there. The ones that give a shit, and the ones that don't. So,
which is probably prevalent in every profession, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can always, you can always be the guy who steps back and lets the other people take the lead. And that, you're right. That happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Or you can be an example. So.
Right. A positive example.
Absolutely.
Or a bad example.
Yeah.
Which actually part of our coaching now, we do coach my old fire department. We lead them through workouts 3 days a week. So we go up and we do in-person workouts with them for an hour. And so it's motivating towards, putting that career path on the right path, I would say.
Yeah.
That's good.
Especially when they're young.
What is life like as a battalion chief? Like what does a week look like? I'm really curious. What do you do?
A week?
Yeah, what's a week look like?
That's like a couple shifts because I work a 24-48. So I'm on for 24 and then I'm off for 48.
Okay.
Start shift at 7. Usually I'm there about 20 minutes early. We check our rigs. We sit around the table and discuss for like a half an hour what we're going to eat for the day because that's like the most important decision of the day.
Let's get the important stuff dealt with, right?
Yeah. So we do that. Usually we'll get a quick drill out of the way. Then they'll go shop. They'll go to the store, buy food for the day. Then lunch, then nap. Not always nap, but usually nap. And then in the afternoon, we might do a more involved drill, like pulling hose or doing a search drill, something like that. And then work out around 3. So I like to say I'm a paid athlete. So it's like the closest I'll ever get to being a professional athlete.
So you're working out on the clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on the clock for 24.
Yep. Got it.
And then around 5, somewhere between 5 and depending on who's cooking, between 5 and 8, we're going to eat dinner. I hate eating dinner at 8 because that's when I like to go to bed. So we might watch some TV and then go to bed. And then, that is above and beyond. Like we run calls too, obviously. So if we catch a call in the middle of all that stuff, we stop what we're doing and we go, serve and protect.
When the battalion chief is not there, is there like an assistant battalion chief or who's there?
No, a battalion chief is on shift no matter what with the crew. And then there's a chief and a deputy chief that are there. They work like banker's hours,
Okay.
So if she's on vacation, one of the other
There's
ones
there's 3 of us. And then there's a captain that acts up when the other 2 or myself cannot fulfill a shift.
Got it.
So, and then I repeat. That's it.
Right. 24, off 48,
There's some
back 24.
shenanigans that go on in there too. So
I think the big difference between like what she does and what I did is she's like on a call. She's running the show as opposed to where when I was working, I was in charge of just like 3 people and we were more pinpoint focused where she was big picture.
I'm the head of the orchestra.
She's the pointer.
Yeah. I'm not a musician.
When, well, how often do you actually have to respond to a fire?
Oh, not as often as you'd think. Maybe, I don't know. We probably get like 4 or 5 a year.
Yeah.
Town.
How significant are they?
I mean, I guess a couple years ago we had a fatal, so those are pretty significant. But not as bad as you might see on TV.
It's kind of unpredictable.
Right. You just never know.
I had anything, you can have anything from a garbage can to, my last year
house.
we had a whole resort that burnt down.
Yeah.
So like that was there for like 3 days.
Yeah. And you know what, Todd, we actually run more, as far as fires go, we run more EMS calls. I'd say 80% of the calls we respond on are medical related.
And is that normal for most departments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all paramedic, so we're cross-trained.
Yeah.
Including myself. So a lot of car accidents, diabetic calls, a lot of people fall.
Yeah.
Gravity's
So
a
that's,
bitch.
that's where
Gravity.
you went where I was going to go, because
Yeah.
it's like, all right, well, if you're a fire department and your intent is to primarily fight fires, but you're not doing it that often, then the question was, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, I think the big gist of it is somebody calls 911 because they don't know what to do.
Yep.
And if it's not a police issue,
Then we get.
then we're going to go.
Interesting.
And shit, half the time we have to just make it up as we
Yeah.
go because, we're there we got to solve the problem somehow,
Yeah.
Right.
Or
whether
find
that's
something.
calling somebody or, or fixing something. So it's kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than just spraying water at a fire.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned drilling. Drilling, I would think, must be important. So if you're not responding to a ton of fire throughout the year, in order to keep the skills up so that you know what the hell to do when the time comes, because it's eventually going to come, right?
Yeah.
So is that what you're drilling
absolutely.
to keep readiness at a high level,
Yeah, because those skills are perishable if you don't use them.
like anything?
Throwing ladders,
I think it's
bending, searching.
about 240 hours a year that you're supposed to have. So
240 hours of drilling?
training, yeah.
Yeah, training.
Just drill.
Yeah.
And what type of scenarios? Besides pulling hose or ladders, I mean, will you I'll use a basketball reference because I'm not a firefighter. Like we'll do a 2-minute drill with, okay, we're down 5 points. There's 2 minutes left in the game. We have no timeouts.
Okay.
And you go through that scenario, put the kids into that pressure situation.
Yeah.
What would that look like for you guys if you're going to drill?
So, for instance, we have like a smoke machine. We might smoke up the mezzanine, and we might put the forcible entry door, outside. So they gotta pull a line, or they gotta pull up in the engine. They gotta pull a line. They gotta go check the door. They gotta force the door. They gotta pull the line through the door. They gotta advance the line, pull it upstairs, search off the line, or have another company search, find the dummy, the rescue Randy, and then move it to a safe spot. So that might be a drill. That's pretty involved drill, because you can have everyone on the company work. You can have the battalion chief, talking on the radio, dispatching, moving pieces around, and then you have your engine crew and your ambulance crew there too. So
And they're part of the drill?
yeah. Yeah, because our ambulance crew, they're, like I said, they're cross-trained, so they're firefighters also. So they would show up on the scene, and they would act as like a truck company.
Yeah.
Truck companies doing like ventilation and search, and the engine crew's doing fire suppression. So they have the hose line.
That crew is part of your crew?
Okay. I'm in charge of all of them.
Got it.
Yeah. They're like my ducklings. I protect them. I'm like their mom. Literally, I'm their mom because they're like 21 years old.
You are their mom.
Yeah.
And battalion chief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting stuff. How is the coordination? Like, how is it? Obviously, you must have to coordinate with law enforcement.
For like on a fire?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're usually in the way. So we coordinate the best we can. It's just fun razzing.
Remember, no
Yeah.
editing.
We're going to get pulled over a bunch of times
That's
on the way home.
We're getting pulled over.
Yeah, you'll have 6 tickets on the way home. Hilarious. What do you have like a story that sticks out, Al? You're out of the game now. You got some wild scenario that you experienced that you can share, that you won't get in trouble sharing?
Probably the one that I mentioned earlier. I was working in a trade on a shift, and so I was starting a 48-hour shift, and we got that resort that burnt down. Some kids it was abandoned, but some kids had broken in and set fires in multiple locations. And so we pulled out of the station, and middle of the, early morning, so it's bright and sunny, but like you could see smoke from 3 miles away.
No, geez.
And it was really going when we got there. And so we basically I spent that whole 48-hour shift there. And it was it's kind of like, doing an ultra where you're just tired and you're just kind of going through the motions, but you have there's no break.
How long did it stay hot?
Oh shit, weeks.
That's crazy.
We
It
had
was a high rise. Like
yeah,
it was a
yeah, it was a high
rise.
rise.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
And
Like my department got called.
I think they said we put.
Really?
Yeah.
I want to say they 8 million gallons of water on the thing, and it just smoldered for weeks. After
They had to
that,
tap
so.
into the neighboring town's
Yeah,
water.
I didn't
supply.
know that we could even do that. Like
Yeah.
they had a valve that the neighboring town could open up and
We could borrow.
No
borrow their
kidding.
water.
Yeah.
I had no idea that
And the
was a
kids
possibility.
just, for shits and giggles, thought that
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
was their intent ever?
I don't think it was their intent to burn the place down.
Right.
But, you know,
Right.
they were causing mischief.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Right.
Right.
yeah.
Wow.
yeah,
It makes
so-
me feel better about the shit cable.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
you should have seen how many people responded to that fire.
Oh,
a
it
lot
was
of people.
massive.
I mean, a lot of people's lives were put at risk because of that, because of these
Absolutely.
shitheads.
That is wild.
But you did bring up a point, like when you asked that question, a lot of people present that question as like, "What's the worst thing you've ever seen?" And that's something that we usually try to shy away from.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing I've seen means somebody's day has,
Yeah.
life has changed,
Right.
You know, for the worse.
Yep.
So, and like we try to, you know, there's a delicate balance with, you know, all the cool stuff we see, and then the psychological toll it takes too. So we try to manage that a little. And I know most people, when they ask that question, it's just in fun, right? But like there's a lot more to it than just the grossness, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen lots of gross things, and we don't always want to relive it, and we don't want to talk about other people's
Traumas.
bad days like that either. So.
Yeah. Well, what you're talking about with the kids is, you know, that's sort of the complicated nature of people, right? And the wild shit that we do, not really considering the consequences downstream.
Yeah.
But there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of collateral damage that occurs a lot of times.
absolutely.
And you can go into it just not doing a good job of calculating that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like, I think even for law enforcement, because I've got quite a few friends that I know are in law enforcement, and well, out in Harvey at the Anytime that I work out at, a lot of the corrections officers work out there.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to know them over the last couple of years because we're in there pretty much at the same time all the time. And just, you know, checking in on them and hearing some of the stuff that goes on in one of their normal days. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you never know what you're going to get. That's what
No.
kind of attracted me to the fire service in the first place, because I used to write for a newspaper when I graduated college, and
Big shift.
yeah, huge shift. And I was like, man, you know, in my mind, I'm like, it's physical, and I like that because I wanted to continue down that road. I played college soccer, and I wanted something that was challenging, both physically and I think mentally too. And then the newspaper just wasn't doing it for me. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how different people are wired and how some people gravitate toward stuff like this. And it's just like,
yeah.
it's in your DNA.
Yeah, and I didn't come from a long line of like firemen in my family or cops or anyone. No one
me
did
neither.
public safety. So no one that I could think of. Maybe some cousins.
So
way down
no
the line, but
family.
No.
No,
My dad's
me
an
neither.
engineer, and my mom was I guess a teacher's aide. So, and my brother works like a very like cerebral job. He's
What's he
not
do?
very- I kind of think he's a spy. I'm not sure, but maybe like
Man
he
of mystery?
speaks- Yeah, speaks many languages. He works in like cybersecurity.
Mm.
He's out in Silicon Valley. So, anyways, we
Plays
should
a lot
not
of
talk
Dungeons and
about
Dragons.
him.
Get him on here.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Into Bitcoin and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those computer guys, man, they're shifty.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can say that with all confidence because he's my brother.
Exactly. So where did mudslingers come into this equation?
All right. Well, so after I got out of the Air Force, I went in the Air Force right after high school, and then just a short stint. And
How
then,
long were you in?
Just like 3 years. So, I did have some good times. I got to go to Japan, and I got
Alaska.
to Alaska, and I got to go on a ride on an F-16, which was pretty cool. Pulling 9Gs is something not everybody gets to say they did. But then after that, I got out, and so I grew up with my parents owning a bike shop, and then They got out of that. I bought what they had left and changed the name, moved the location, called it Mudslingers, and owned that for a few years. It's still around. It's went through many different hands
The
since
shop
I
you're
left.
talking about?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to make a living, especially in a small town with the bike shop. Profit margin's just not much. So then when I had kids, then that's when I started looking at different options. I found the fire department. Somebody told me about, testing for a fire department. I'm like, well, that sounds pretty cool. I'll try that. I got out of the bike shop and then started doing the fire department. And as time went on, I still kept in touch with the guys who owned the shop, and we decided to use the name for the coaching, and we're kind of play off of each other.
Makes sense.
And
Well, we
and
were
that's where
like
it
a
started.
running club for a while. We called
Yeah.
ourselves the Midwest Misfits, and then we got involved, and then we were coaching under that name, and then we actually got involved doing coaching with another outfit out of San Diego. They're called Braveheart Coaching.
Yeah, we talked about this.
yeah, we
So-
talked a little bit about the book that they wrote too.
Yeah. So we coached with them for a while. There's a professional triathlete. Her name's Leslie Patterson, and her husband was Simon Marshall. And they brought us on in their group, and we coached. And then after a while, we kind of just wanted to do our own thing and get back to our roots, I guess you could say. So we took on the Mudslinger name again.
Were they kind of a traditional coaching service?
No.
No.
Not at all.
they
That's
were-
what we liked about them.
Okay.
So she was the Xterra world champion multiple times, and Simon was a sports psychologist.
Okay.
So anybody who works with us knows that we incorporate some of the mental. We're not psychologists or anything like that, but we do incorporate some of the mental aspects of developing grit and that kind of stuff with our coaching, and that was influenced from him because he pushed that a lot, and I think that's a huge part of what we all do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, there's a physical. You could train somebody with a power meter all day long, but you're not strengthening their mind.
I would say majority of our athletes have read his book. He passed away last June. But it's him and Leslie wrote the book, The Brave Athlete, Harden the Fuck Up. It's a really good book. So it talks about your monkey mind and your professor brain and kind of how to harness that. Yeah.
It's a good read.
It's a really good read.
So you so you went off on your own. Following the same coaching philosophy format?
Yeah, generally.
Yeah, generally
When you
speaking,
said when you said getting back to your roots, what did you mean by that?
I just meant adopting that Mudslingers name again.
Owning our own name.
Owning
Yeah.
our own name.
Where did Mudslingers come from? The name. Just pick the name.
Well, yeah, really. It was just like the bike shop was when we started the bike shop. It was pretty new into the days of mountain biking. So, I would say it was early '90s, and we thought, "Well, that sounds like a cool name." We just kind of brainstorming, and that's where it landed. So,
So that's been how long?
Since we've been Mudslingers
Yeah.
or since we've been coaching?
Mudslingers. We'll pick it up there.
I would say maybe 17, 18, somewhere around then.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've been probably coaching since
2008.
So
So 08, and you're coaching across what disciplines?
Any ultra distance, really. We have ultra runners, ultra cyclists, triathletes, swimmers, we got it all.
yeah, most of it. That's kind of where it settled, landed. Not necessarily. I guess I would call it organically, right? So most of I don't think we have any athletes right now that's main competition is under 10 hours.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. That's what we enjoy, and it's just fit pretty well with our drive and then our coaching. So, and we don't really. It's not. I don't know. It's not that we wouldn't coach somebody to like a typical mountain bike cross country race, but we enjoy the part where you have to dig a little deeper.
Yeah. Is everybody, as far as you know, that you're currently training or on average that you normally end up working with, is the training inspired and driven by some goal, specific event?
Yeah, I would say for the most part. Everyone has an event. It's not just towards fitness.
That's usually why they come to us.
Yeah. excluding
What-
the fire department.
What we have noticed, we sent out a survey a few years back, and what we found in the return of the survey was one of the things that most of the athletes that we talked to enjoyed about it is they come to us with a goal in mind for an event, but then we start throwing other ideas out and trying to expand their thoughts of what they're capable of. And so that kind of became a sweet spot where I think a lot of typical approaches to coaching, you have your A race, and that's what I coach you for, and it never gets beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think sometimes doing these kind of events, it kind of opens up our view so that we can share it with other people and say, hey, maybe this is something else you want to look at. I would say also along with our sweet spot of coaching is our real passion comes to the person who is doing something that's they never thought, like maybe 2 years ago, they would look at and think, I could never do that. And to get them across the finish line, there's a ton of coaches out there trying to get you to the podium spot. I think we find more joy in getting somebody to the spot where they thought, man, this changed my life because I never thought I could do this.
I sold myself short.
Yeah, that would make sense then why maybe our events resonated with you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. When we first
Yeah.
came up here to do your events, it was like, this is like our jam.
It was COVID year,
Yeah.
so we did the EX that year,
Right.
Pressure EX. So
Yeah,
that's when we met you
yeah,
in your driveway
that's right. You know,
with your shady spot trackers.
oh, that's hilarious. It's interesting with our events. Not everybody, but a lot of people talk about the Barkley,
Which we just watched a video on last night.
Well,
the documentary.
Yeah, the one on
the most recent one where Jasmine Paris won.
Oh,
she
First
finished
female.
First female.
okay.
last
I
year.
did not see that.
Amazing.
It was a really good
called
video.
Finisher.
Real
Yeah.
good.
Really
real well
good.
put together.
Yeah.
So when people bring it up, they've compared the way that we run the events, or they've compared me to Laz because they see some parallels or commonalities.
The heavy
between
smoking, or
Yeah. Maybe
Well, one time
maybe
actually,
the homeless hermit.
up until Stacy and I got married, I smoked a lot. Actually,
Did you?
yeah,
Pot?
no,
Crack?
no. Even if the answer was yes, it's no, I actually didn't. But anyway, where I was going with it is the difference. Anytime somebody says that, it's like, well, just to be referenced or associated with something like the Barkley is,
that's pretty cool.
that's
Yeah.
cool. It is cool. But going back to what you just said, I think my favorite part of the best difference that I see is the Barkley is still ultra fucking competitive, high end, crazy talented athletes. And
Yeah.
it's only like what, 50?
40 that do
40.
it. Yeah.
So the opportunity to the average dude
Can't get in.
average woman,
Because they said 700 people apply. About
Yeah, and they take 40.
when you go to a 906 event and you look at
Yeah.
the
It's
people,
inclusive.
100%. So like we're actually, my favorite part is we're challenging people, like a dude that might be walking out in front of base camp right now to get in the game and to do something that people feel is as hard or on par with something like the Barkley, which is cool. There's hundreds of people, well, actually thousands of people a year that are doing it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah,
It's a good feeling.
I love
It
it.
is a
That's
good
it's really
feeling.
cool.
It's a good feeling.
And I think, we're kind of at the point where when we sign up for races now, and this is where I love where our athletes fall, is don't sign up for something if you know you can finish it.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't scare the shit out of you and you like, I got maybe 50% chance, then you're probably underselling yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where I got to with a lot of like the cross country races. Because after a while, you're doing the same races.
Absolutely.
Those races, they don't change.
Right.
They're very predictable. There's no chance you're not going to finish.
Right.
And at some point, it was like, what am I doing?
I'm just
doing this?
repeating my,
Well, we did that with Xterra for many years.
Yeah.
We went to the same races over and over.
and you make improvements. You get a little faster. You work your way up a little bit higher in the standings and stuff. So there's
Your age
wins
group.
involved,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
you really want to challenge yourself. You got to, go beyond that.
Yeah, I don't want to discount age groups. You know, if you're going up in your age group, great. But I don't know. Sometimes even in some of those bigger cross country races where there's like 1,200 people, and I just think that there's bigger opportunities, other things that, you know, doing an ultra endurance event where you get, instead of moving up 10 spots in your age group, you have to learn how to use new equipment that you've never used. You have to learn how to use lights. You have to be comfortable in the dark. Like there's things that those skills and learning that stuff and doing it unlocks within you that you're never going to unlock at a 2-hour mountain bike race.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And it reminds me of we did Tour Divide a few years back, and a lot of that happened there. You know, you're relying on yourself, and there's no one there is. I mean, like your shirt said, there's no finish line, but literally, there's like no finish line when you get there.
Right.
You get to the border, and it's like,
just
oh,
there.
there it is.
There's a stray dog.
Yeah, I mean, okay, like it was closed even. So I mean, it's just one of those things. It was, you know, it challenges you. Sure.
Paul was on here last week, and he talked about his quitter moment.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a quitter moment at all on the tour?
No.
Not one. We rode together though.
Yeah.
And opposite of what he said, for us, we really went through that almost depression after the finish. Like we're continuously searching for the next thing.
The next thing.
And we can't find it.
Or the next donut. And it wasn't as good.
I asked him about that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, and that's
You
why
did.
And the only thing
he said he
couldn't
was
stop
good
eating.
with it. But yeah, we did had that too.
Yeah.
Our 3 weeks lasted more like 6 years. But
Yeah,
like
How do you? So if most of your athletes are gravitating toward these events, I mean, obviously not toward Tour Divide, but I think even people have shared having this feeling like this depression or loss after doing a 100-mile race or EX 225 or something like that. So do you guys, how do you help coach people through that?
You have to find something else. You have to
put something on the horizon. You know, I think like we haven't coached anybody through like a Tour Divide level thing.
Oh, Corey.
Well, Corey Krosner. But yeah, you kind of always got to look for the next thing to keep that energy up, I think.
Yeah.
How long do you know on average when a person comes in to work with you? How long do they stick with it?
Oh gosh, it varies. We might have them for a season, or we might have them for years.
I think most
can't
of
get
them
rid of
come.
them.
I would guess most.
I feel like when you said that, you had somebody's name.
No, I mean,
I'm kidding. I'm
they
kidding.
keep paying us. It's
kidding.
like we have friends that pay us to be friends with them.
I would say the majority of them though come on board with an A race in mind,
Yeah.
and then end up continuing on for a few years at least.
Yeah.
Because I think once you're done with that A race, you get used to having, you know, some guidance and some motivation and some accountability. And so if that goes away, all of a sudden you're like, shit, what am I doing now?
Yeah. And there's a pretty solid group of dirt bags, which is what we call them, that stick around for a while, because I think there's like kind of a team element and some camaraderie. So when we get together and do things together, we have an annual camp.
You were just in Bentonville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some pictures.
It's fucking amazing.
It is amazing.
Bentonville is?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crowded. I mean,
Especially spring break.
the
but
secret's
still.
out, but it's a blast. A lot of trips.
I every time we go down, it just blows my mind
Yeah.
how much more is there from year to year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I haven't been down there for probably since, 5 years?
It's changed.
Yeah, you won't even recognize it.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. I mean, you can't afford to live there anymore. So
Yeah, it's gotten ridiculous. But
One of the times I was down there, it was for the NICA National Convention. And one of the afternoons, we didn't have much going on. So I ended up just like walking town, but I got away from like the downtown area that was super developed. And I walked out kind of on the outskirts of town. I can't remember the damn barber shop name, but I found a local like barber shop. Like I'm talking old school fucking barber shop. I walk in, everybody in the building knows each other. They look at me and right away they're like, who's this?
Yeah.
So I got a haircut. Had to sit there and wait for it for an hour.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to sit in that space and just hear him talk.
Yeah.
Because they were
Stories.
the stories, and they were actually talking a lot about how the town, this, that has changed.
Yeah.
And it was really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild what they've done down there.
Yeah, it is.
There's another coaching question I had. So if I'm new, I hear about you, I don't know what I'm doing, I need a coach and I come to you. How do you what's your approach to onboarding somebody?
Well, we usually start with a phone call
Yeah.
and talk for shit in 45 minutes to an hour, kind of get to know them,
Yeah.
tell them what we're about.
And then ask what they're about.
Yeah. And then see if it's a good fit.
And
then,
we have them fill out a questionnaire, and then, we move towards coaching them at that point. It's pretty easy.
usually you can tell within that phone call if you're going to jive or not. Not everybody's the right fit. We're not the right fit for everybody. So, but you can usually tell. And one of the things, if you look at a typical coaching program, they limit, your conversations, your emails and your texts back and forth. And we don't do that because, especially coaching remotely, I don't know how you would get to know somebody when you're limiting that communication. And if you don't get to know them, how am I supposed to write a program
Well,
for
and
them,
and the key thing Al's not mentioning too is that we write a customized program. So it's based on their lifestyle and what maybe their typical week looks like or how they train, and then work towards that A race or that goal. So
Yeah, and I'll back up a little bit. You had asked one of the reasons that we did get into coaching and why we got into coaching. It wasn't just, sorting through the muck of a new event, but also because we worked a 24-hour, 24 on, 48 off shift, like the cookie cutter program wasn't very realistic. So we might get assigned a swim on a day we were working.
yeah,
Well, and the answer from the coach's answer, and we tell the coach, like, well, I can't go for a swim. I'm at work. And she's like, go after work. I'm like, well, after work is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it got kind of,
There was a learning curve.
it got kind of challenging to, the whole world was based on a 9 to 5. And so, Monday through Friday job. And we didn't fit that. So we wanted to make sure our athletes were able to work. We were able to provide a program that works with their schedule and their life, not just.
Which, as a result, we ended up with a lot of shift work people, nurses, cops, firemen, even teachers. I know they have the best hours, but we have them too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, your profession was a atypical schedule, which from a perspective of coaching people is a benefit.
Yeah.
I've said, I think that a big part of the reason why I've been good at doing events that are 24 hours or longer, where you're going through the night, goes all the way back to when I was in my early 20s, driving truck over the road.
Yeah.
It got put on nights.
Yeah.
I had to drive nights for 6 to 12 months when I injured my shoulder. Had a
terrible
rotator cuff injury. So it's you go in at 6 and you drive until 7:30 in the morning. Got to know no-dos and
no-dos
and all that shit, to stay awake. And I also learned that I'm too high-strung to be on stuff like that. It turns me into a murderer.
Yeah.
But I have always felt like being able to tap back into having had that experience has benefited me, even at the finish line when we're doing Margie. When you're waiting for everybody to finish and you're 48 hours deep into the event, it's you can see who has had to do that and who hasn't. It shows up.
Yeah. Well, let's circle back to that long fire. I said, I was there for 48 hours. It's it's not like I'm tired or my shift is over. I can just pick up and go home. It doesn't matter how tired you are. You just have to keep going. Which seems kind of familiar here.
Yeah.
100%.
Shove a burger in your mouth and keep on
Or your
going.
bag.
100%.
Pocket burger.
All right. So here's a question, because I think I know where you guys stand on this, but one of my things, and I've shared this in Train for Life, the group on Facebook, I've shared it through different social media posts and stuff. I've trained classically on the bike with a cycling coach, and it was awesome. I've trained more self-guided weight training. I've done more weight training in my life than I have cycling training. the two seem to think that they have to live in separate worlds.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
So how do you guys, I'm just curious, talk about how you approach that with people, because my experience was when I was my most highly trained on the bike, I was my weakest physically. Like everything else in life that didn't require like cardiovascular endurance, everything else was fucking harder. And that seems counterproductive.
Right.
Because I spend most of my life not on a bike.
Right.
So what's your take on it?
Well, we've done both. We've trained, I've spent a lot of years in the gym as well. And I know, like, maybe for somebody who's purely focused, very specific on their focus, it might be less important to be in the gym. But I think, one, for life, you need to have some basic strength, right? And also, I think races like Margie, it takes a lot of strength, both, not just your legs, but you got to have core strength to keep your freaking, arms from being sore from leaning on the handlebars. You're pulling the bars. You're carrying your bike up, up and over rocks. And if you don't have that strength, it's just going to add to your overall fatigue. I know, depending on your objective, the pointing end of the spear tends to be more cardio focused.
But in cycling and endurance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think in general, overall having strength is important. Now, I don't think everybody has to train like a bodybuilder to come out and race Margie.
No, I think weight training, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think that it gets a bad rap
Yeah.
because of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Because
of that.
Because of the bro
bro
society,
life. Yes. And the bros in the gym sometimes make the gym it's just not a fun place to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's a huge important. Now, when we write our programs up, obviously the winter months, we spend our athletes are typically spending more time in the gym, and then in the summer months we bring it down. So our goal is to build strength in the winter and maintain it through the rest of the year.
Makes sense.
And like a lot of functional type strength, not just
I think
sweet pecs.
I think having a solid strength foundation adds some confidence too. Just, body confidence, whatever, but just that you can do these things,
It's super measurable too.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah.
Weight training, you mean?
Yeah.
As far as weights?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can watch yourself improve.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
It's harder to see
I
that
think
on a
it's
bike,
cool.
Yeah.
I think as a woman too, going into the weight room and like throwing some heavy weight around, like a deadlift or squat or whatever, I think that's pretty badass. So, and women shouldn't be afraid to do that. They should be powerful.
I was talking to somebody last week about the gym environment, and this is just here at our gym. I don't know about other gyms, but I'm in there 6 days a week. Sometimes 5, but at 6 or 7, pretty steady. Normally the same time. So you start to get a good sense when you're in there for two years every day like that, like what people are doing. And it's really interesting to watch the difference between what men seem to focus on, at least at this gym, and what the women focus on.
It's probably the same as most gyms. I think I know where you're going.
Everybody's doing the glute lift thing.
That's
Get the booty
right
popping.
They were those super tight. Yeah. I know you look.
And that's
so
why Cable's
wild.
developed his mirror game, right?
I'm not looking, but,
I know. He's
but
like,
Cable's mirror game is on point.
right.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't blame him, right? It's like, you're good.
I understand.
Gavin, on the way back from Cable's basketball tournament, Gavin has not been in the gym that much. So Gavin and I ended up driving back together, just the two of us. Cable was with Mom and Grandma driving back, and we were talking a little bit about the gym because I asked Gavin, I'm like, you seem to be off the path a little bit lately. And he's like, yeah, he's got stuff going on. He is busy. He's in college. He does a lot of work for NMU's athletic department with graphic design and stuff like that. So he's got a girlfriend. All these things take time. He plays Minecraft.
Yeah. There you go.
But it was interesting because he he was, we're just talking back and forth, and he's like, yeah, I went back to the gym last week and haven't been there in about a month. And I was kind of like depressed. And I'm like, well, why? You're in the gym. You should leave the gym feeling good. And he said it was because he wasn't hitting the weights
Sure.
he was at before.
Sure.
Yeah, but you established that foundation for him, right? So, like, I think, that age group will drift away, come back.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
you've got the roots planted, and
Yes.
it'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. They're going to gravitate away from it at some point. But
Yeah, life happens.
the programming has been put into the software, and it's there.
I mean, we did too.
Yeah.
We've had years where we haven't really done a lot of strength training and stuff, but
Yeah.
When I was deep into the corporate life, traveling every day, I was out of the gym.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't any time.
Yeah.
I mean, there was time, but I wasn't taking the time.
Right.
Sure.
And the lifestyle just completely took you away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I can speak for some of the newer athletes too. Like it's a little intimidating when you walk into a gym and you're not really sure what to do.
For
you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
For sure. You can
And you've
always
heard-
tell
yeah,
who the new person
You've
is.
heard like, oh, I don't want to bulk up, or oh, I should stay away from that, or whatever.
Yeah, there's a
But,
lot of
like,
misinformation out there.
tons, especially for women. So I think like when we're coaching, it's kind of our job to open that door for them and say, hey, it's okay to go in there, and it's okay if you don't know what you're doing initially. Like everyone walks in the gym the first time and they don't know what they're doing.
And we try to lay it out pretty good.
Yeah.
What for them to do, and
Right.
some videos and stuff
Explanation.
of how
Yeah.
to do things, so they're not going in there and just flopping around.
Wandering. Wandering around.
the gym nomad.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
What am I going to do next?
And then with the gym too, when we circle back to the importance of strength training in this, is we do a lot of single speed stuff. That's that's primarily what we do. And and I think it even becomes more important when you're doing that, because I can't drop down a gear
Upper
ratio
body,
to power up a hill. I have to use everything I have to get up those climbs,
Yeah.
not just my legs.
When I saw the first time that I had an aha about strength training for cyclists was actually in 2020 during COVID. And it was it wasn't when Mark and I did the recon ride in May. I think I was out there in July, and we were doing the long route, and it just so happened that weekend there were a lot of people out. So in the morning going up Hogback, there was a good line of people. And more than 50% of the people could not physically lift their bike loaded.
Yeah.
Because you got to that point toward the top where
Yeah.
you had to go up the steps.
Yeah.
You had to be able to lift your bike. They just literally could not. And if there had not been people there to help them do it, they were done because they
Yeah.
just couldn't get the bike done.
Yeah.
That was my first aha, where it was like, oh,
That reminds me of when we did Tour Divide at the finish line. You
Yeah.
stand in front of the gate at Antelope Wells, and it's
Yeah.
tradition. You pick your bike up over your head and take the picture, right? Like only half the people could do. Like you get it up there, and then you watch them
Well, your bike's
drop
like
it as it
75
goes.
pounds.
right.
Yeah. And
Well, for
and
Tour
you've
Divide,
lost- and you've lost a ton of weight. You're like all scrawny and,
Yeah. What'd you lose for
I
weight?
lost 30 pounds.
I was probably about 15.
I had 20 I could lose.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Hell of a diet.
Oh, it's the best diet in the world.
yeah.
How many days were you
It
guys
took
up?
us 27 days.
But
so
with the caveat, we did it COVID year, so we missed the first 230.
30, yeah. So we
so we
started
couldn't go.
it
The
because
border
of
was
the
border
closed.
to border. So we still had 2,500 miles.
We actually did what was it? The Great Divide mountain bike route.
Yeah, the original.
yeah, the
the John Stamstad version.
Got it.
Yeah.
You got anybody who's planning to do the tour right now that's working with you?
I assume at some point Hard Corey will do it.
Yeah,
he
Corey
just got
probably.
back from
A yo-yo of the
Yo-yo.
Baja
Yeah,
Divide.
I saw that.
really
Did
cool. We had a
3,000
long
miles.
talk about that after he did it. Sounds really cool and a little bit gross.
Yeah.
Dangerous?
No, he said it wasn't dangerous, but he's got a different level of expectations of sense of security.
Comfort?
Yeah.
Comfort.
But he said a lot of dead animals,
Yeah. a lot of dead dogs, dead cows.
stuff
so-
like that. But he raved about it. He loved it. It just some of the things, because that's kind of been on our radar.
Yeah.
And after talking to him, I'm not sure it was as appealing as what we originally.
How many days did it take him?
60?
56, I thought it
56?
was. Yeah.
And
54, 56.
this was a touring pace for him.
Yeah.
I mean, usually he goes pretty hard.
Yeah. Like he
minimal
actually
sleep
slept.
and stuff,
He
but
actually
like
slept, he
yeah.
said, 6 hours a night, which normally he'll do like little cat naps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that for 60 days.
No.
So.
No.
No. How many people is that just a route that's open to the public
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
at any time?
Mm-hmm.
So you can do it whenever you want.
Yeah, he didn't do like a grand depart or anything
No,
like
he
that.
did
He
an
just did it on his own.
ICT. Yeah, but I don't think they even have a grand depart. You just go and
I
do
don't
it.
think so, yeah.
Did you say that he trains with you?
Yeah.
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 So
His main
Corey's
thing-
different.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're keeping him. So when we train him, because we don't need to tell him to go and ride his bike or how many hours to ride his bike.
We do
He
plug
can
it
take
in,
care of
but
that.
like that's not the emphasis.
Corey's emphasis is how can we keep him healthy? While
A lot of
he's training.
strength, a lot of flexibility, and a little
Recovery.
bit of mental stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of and a lot of our job with him is like pulling the reins
Yeah,
back,
a little bit.
keeping him under control. Because
But he never really did strength before, so this was
Right.
new to him, and he said it's made a huge difference.
Yeah.
especially the core work.
as much as stuff as he does, he's
Yeah.
predisposed to injury.
Yeah.
You know, the miles he puts in.
Do you have a specific approach with do you have a favorite like stable of exercises that you have people focus on? Is it all different?
Like strength?
Yeah, strength
Well,
training.
you're going to love this. You know, a lot of foundation around deadlifts
Okay.
and squats and
Deadlifts,
and
squat.
core. And then we'll incorporate like multi-joint
work.
movements.
We'll do a
Yeah,
lot of
kettlebell work,
clean and
multi-joint
press.
movements, that kind of stuff.
Rows at all? No rows? Yeah. Like barbell or dumbbell rows? Okay.
back work, ab
The
work,
foundation type exercises.
Yeah.
I
you know?
gotcha.
the
Yeah,
big,
that makes
big
sense.
booty muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't prescribe a lot of bands with twisting and stuff. It's
No.
just like the basic fundamental
Yeah.
strength training.
How old are you?
53.
Okay. I'm 51. How many
Don't you
people?
want to ask me how old I am?
I never ask a woman how old. I was assuming like 27.
Oh, gross. Al.
I'm a real perv.
You're a winner. You won, Al.
High five.
How many of your athletes are in that range where we are?
Oh,
Age
good chunk.
Good
We
chunk?
have
Good chunk.
We have
Really good chunk.
older.
Yeah, we coach Larry Utter.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's what, 69?
Yeah. And Greg.
I'm sorry,
Worsnap.
Larry, if I got that wrong.
Yeah.
And
Greg
Greg
Worsnap.
Worsnap.
Yeah.
He's a year older than Larry.
Those guys, they've gotten into. I know Larry's mentioned that he's enjoyed getting into the strength
yeah, he
training
loves
and
it.
really
Yeah.
Loves
has
it.
felt the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, both of them are,
And
they're-
yoga.
They're getting strength training and yoga. And I think that gets more important as we get older.
100% it does. I mean, it's just
I mean,
the
when
science
I was
shows
20,
it.
I could fucking bounce back from whatever. Now I need a little bit of more flexibility and a little more strength to keep myself healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. Even going back to you guys kind of touched on it. I don't know if it was Kristen or if you mentioned it, but like that sense of self-image you get, I think you were talking about it. If you're in the gym and you're committed to it and you feel strong because you see your weights going up. I've seen this with our boys that your self-image is that of someone you see yourself as being strong. And it doesn't even really matter how much you're lifting. Cable's, I think his bench is 120. He's not benching 500 pounds, but for a 14-year-old young man, it's really significant for him because he was just benching 100 pounds 6 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
His goal was to bench 120 when he became a freshman.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6 months ahead.
Yeah.
But he's realizing that. I don't even have to spell it out for him.
Yeah.
So I think that the identity of being Don Lundeen said for her, all this helps her understand she's not fragile.
Yeah. We coached her for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just another way of saying that you see yourself as strong,
Yeah.
which is important. It's mental resilience.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and I haven't talked too much. Well, no, I've talked to Gavin about this. If you're somebody who does partake in regular strength training, when people see you, they're going to know that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's just a specific sort of shape and figure that that you develop, and that also affects how people view you and interact with you. So I've always said to him, being viewed as somebody who is durable and strong isn't just good for yourself.
Disciplined. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's also good from a social perspective of how people will view you.
Yeah.
It's all these. It's body language. It's
How
social
you carry
cues.
yourself.
How you carry yourself. Exactly.
Yeah. How bosses view you. How,
Yeah.
I mean,
it
says
brings a
something
lot of
about
confidence. And, you know, I get into a lot of the, you know, the books about mental strength and mental grit and stuff like that. And a lot of talk about confidence versus, you know, being confident without being cocky.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge goal, you know, being confident, but not walking around like you're the shit, you know?
Right. Having some humility.
Yeah. Because there's always a bigger dog.
Oh, it doesn't matter how big you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter how hard you bite.
The minute you start talking that, somebody's going to put you in your place.
Yeah. It's so superficial. I mean, you can see it at the gym. That's a great place to see it because you figure out quick, you know, who's posing in the mirror, who's there for the aesthetic look.
Right.
Which I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being aware that maybe you look good, but if that's the only reason you're there, I've coached the kids on that a lot. Like Cable is a challenge sometimes. He likes to flex in the mirror.
Yeah.
Well, there's a place for that. I mean, you know, look at the bodybuilding world. Like there's fiercely competitive. That's a fiercely competitive sport. If that's
sure
your goal, that's your focus. You know,
it's
but
not
like
just
that's not where
I mean,
anybody
probably-
here is.
He's probably
looking to
seeing
do.
it online too. I mean,
Oh yeah.
right? The algorithm, when you're starting to look at that stuff, that's all you ever see.
Yep.
So
That isn't that true?
yeah.
So when I was training on the bike and everything I'm posting is from the bike or on the bike,
Yeah.
that's
all
what
you
the
see.
algorithm
all you get.
shows me. And now it's like WWF
Yeah.
and bodybuilding
Oh man.
24 hours a day.
Yeah. That's my guilty pleasure, wrestling.
Right.
I do love it.
Oh, professional wrestling?
Yeah.
It is the best.
I do.
Seriously.
Don't tell anyone.
You guys could be a hell of a tag team.
That'd be fun.
It would be fun.
I don't know if my body can handle it.
No,
I'm 53.
I know. Yeah, you're old.
I don't feel like I'm 53 though. I feel like I could probably still handle what I did at 30.
That's
That's
the
not
dilemma.
true, but I feel like that in my head.
You just need more recovery. Maybe some Epsom salts.
How do you think that strength training differs for women versus men as far as like, do you think that, well, I'm just from a female perspective, where does weight training fit in to your cue? It seems like maybe it's not viewed as something, and I don't think it should be, but the demographic is heavily male at the gym that I go to.
Yeah.
I guess why?
Well, I mean, I think just by virtue of what it is, you're going to get men in there, you know, and they're like, I'm going to lift some weights, you know?
Adrian.
And I think just historically women, I mean, have been told that, well, you don't lift heavy weights because you don't want bulky muscles, and that's not very feminine. And I think there's a big pushback, you know, maybe not now, but years ago that's not true. You know, we can do that too. So
Love it or hate it, I think
athletes, too.
CrossFit has broken that down a little bit though.
Yeah.
So
Women
it's a
can be
little
tough.
I think CrossFit, like I said, love it or hate it. I know it's a controversial thing, but they have empowered a lot more women,
Yeah.
I think. And they've redefined what the woman's body is supposed to look like.
Yeah,
It's,
you get some women in there, and you get grandma next to, you know, the 20-year-old football player, and they're throwing heavy weights above their head. Like you said, love it or hate it.
Yeah.
It might not be good, but grandma probably never even heard of, you know, snatches.
Do you feel like
heard it.
you feel like CrossFit gets a bad rap because of the injuries?
Yeah. I think it can be a really good thing, but I think it can, if it's not done responsibly,
good
it
coach.
can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like anything, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just interval training.
Yeah.
It's high intensity interval training.
yeah. We've watched the CrossFit Games, and
Sure.
it's cool.
It can be motivating.
Yeah.
Use
Yeah.
it for what it
Yeah.
for what
It's
motivates
cool.
you. You know.
You know, I mean, maybe the likelihood of injury is higher, but
I mean, they're athletes. You put yourself out there doing things like that, you might get hurt.
yeah.
So,
I mean, football's dangerous. There's a lot of people doing it.
yeah.
It's just the way it is.
I'll tell you what, though, if I were like a chiropractor or a massage therapist or doctor, whatever, orthopedic, I would set up shop next to a CrossFit gym.
In fact, our physical therapist is right next to a CrossFit gym.
I know.
It would make sense. Would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What do you guys have lined up for this year?
Oh, man.
I'll let you go on that one.
We're going to do a couple 24-hour races. We're going to do the point-to-point, the bike packing, the 500-miler. Yeah, that's going to be fun. And then...
Which we're probably going to switch to unsupported.
Oh, yeah. Can we be unsupported? Can we just tell you that now?
Yep.
All right, cool. Unsupported it is.
Done.
And then we're going to do the Vapor Trail in Salida. So no Margie for us this year, but we will be up here. We're going to be up here. It's kind of like,
And I'm going to let you know,
Heckling?
heckling.
the guy that runs Vapor Trail says it's harder than Margie.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll give you the answer
I have heard that.
in September.
Well, it's different. It's at elevation. I
Yeah.
mean, we go up to like 13,000 feet.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
just by virtue of that, it's
They're
different.
they're different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. It should be cool to try, though.
Can't
you know, see.
compare them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll be curious to hear what the experience is like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is it that's running it?
I don't know his name.
I don't know.
There was some guy. What was his name? He was on a podcast, Matt something.
Oh, Matt.
Back in the day, it was the podcast
That
like
guy.
JRA just riding around, and he started throwing some shade at Margie. I didn't even know about him or his podcast.
I've never, I should be clear. I don't think I've ever heard that anything bad about this guy.
No.
Like, I don't think
Yeah,
he's
no,
like
no.
talking
I
shit.
don't even.
shit,
I
but,
didn't
like,
know Matt either. He just he put it out there in the podcast, and then the Margie maniacs went after him.
Margie,
Poor bastard.
Margie police, the Margie marshals.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think it's good to have that variety.
Yeah.
You know, at one time, I think doesn't Leadville still say it's like the hardest mountain bike race? Or,
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
We've never done Leadville, so I can't speak to that.
The one thing I'd say is we have never been the one to say we're harder than anybody.
Yeah. That was Mr. Bishop.
Yes, Jeremiah said it. And anytime somebody asks me about, if we're harder than XYZ race, I'm like, I don't know. Go do it and you tell me.
Yeah. Well, but even then, that's all perspective.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
personal.
Yeah.
We've had people say it's the hardest thing they've done. We've had people say it's not the hardest thing they've done.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
Margie has it, well, and you do a pretty good job of putting that out there on social media. It's got this aura of people are scared of it. And they should be scared of it to a degree, right? But like, don't let that limit you, Like if you go into it and thinking, oh, this is so hard. And I hope I'm not stepping out of line here, but it seems like to me, it takes most people an average of about 3 times to get to the finish line on the 100.
Yeah, that has generally been true.
And I think that people can see that on all social media, and that makes them almost think it's okay to not finish this time because it's the norm.
Right.
So we didn't really have any
Expectations.
going in. We didn't hear we didn't pay attention to a lot of that. So when we did our first one, we just did it.
Yeah.
And let me remind you that, I don't know if you remember, Kristen was the first single speed female, right?
remember that.
And so I want to ask Kristen a question if you don't mind.
Yeah. Go for it.
If you had known no single woman had finished the single speed Margie going into it, would you have still rode single speed?
Probably not.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like that limitations. Like sometimes knowledge,
It's a 4-minute
Is
mile
bad.
thing.
having too much information sometimes can limit you, I think.
Sure. And we try to stay away. We call them the panic pages. Like that Margie page gets a little like off the hook a few weeks before Margie.
I
and
don't
it's
know
just-
who could be pushing them
Yeah, I don't
buttons,
know
but
either.
like,
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, we see it when we were doing Ironman and stuff too. We'd see it there, and people just, it's contagious.
they freak out about the water temperature or whatever the hell it is,
Watching the weather.
Sometimes you just
we-
got to trust
It is
yourself.
what it is.
Ride
And
what's in front of you.
And back to like the training we do, like we send them out in shitty weather because what if
As we
Margie
should.
is shitty?
We have
day,
an actual category, so we use Training Peaks, and you got the bike workouts, you got run workouts, you got strength workouts and swim workouts,
Whatnot.
right? We got our own category that we put, it's grit workouts.
Yeah.
And so like a good example of a grit workout might be just an hour workout where you ride for 10 minutes, warm up, do 10 hill repeats, ride for another 30 minutes, and then 10 more hill repeats. But the hill repeats are carrying your bike on your shoulder as opposed to riding your bike up. Because let's face it, you're going to fucking do that here. So, and the point is you're not going to get all the resilience in that hour workout. But when you get to the point where you see something that's fucked up with a big blame Todd or blame Danny sticker on it, and you go, what the fuck? At least you've been there before. You can say, okay, I can push through this.
Just move forward.
I honestly feel for a lot of people that exercise of getting off their bike and either pushing it or carrying it, that the biggest gain for them in that moment is putting aside their fragile ego.
That they can't ride.
Oh, yeah,
That they
because
can't ride it.
I mean, we've been there.
yeah.
We've been there too. I mean, when you have to get off your bike and walk something because you're like, ooh,
it's humbling.
yeah.
Right.
But it's not a big deal.
And I cut my teeth. I've been riding mountain bikes since the beginning of mountain biking. And, I grew up in the Midwest. And so for me, getting off my bike and having to walk up a hill was failure. And, it wasn't until the last 10, 15 years where we started doing some trips out west, and you go, oh, that's just part of the bike.
Yeah.
You're not going to ride this mountain peak. You're gonna have to walk it. That's just part of it. And like
well, we're not trials.
changing that, perspective is, I think you need to shift that perspective.
Well,
every
single
once in a
speed
while.
taught us that too.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't ride up everything. So
I'll die trying though.
You
Yeah.
can't be right. You can't be too proud to push your bike or carry your bike. And I even think back to like the bad weather thing. I think it's more normalized now, at least in the community around our 906 events or others on the peripheral of it, to do this stuff, to ride in bad weather, to ride through the night. Like we've sort of normalized some of that. But when I started coaching the NICA team in 2016, as the head coach of the youth team, we had 35 kids. One of the things I remember the first time that there was like bad weather on a practice night, like heavy rain, blah, blah, blah. And I just sent out a message and I'm like, hey, just a heads up, the practice is on. If it had been lightning or something. Or
Yeah,
something
safety
dangerous,
is a thing.
we're not going to do that, but
It's not good when you get a 10-year-old dead.
right. But I put it out so the parents knew practice is on. We're going to ride in this. And 9 years ago, that was not a normal approach. 9 years ago, they were like,
what?
what'd you say? You're doing what?
Yeah, it's raining.
Aren't they going to get wet? And I'm like, probably, And I said the same thing that you said it about, well, what if it rains at Margie?
Yeah.
It's like these kids are on the team. They're going to race. They're on a fixed schedule of weekends. You don't want us to train in the rain? And what the hell's going to happen if we show up and we race in the rain? They're not ready.
No.
So it's been interesting to watch how now all of a sudden it is far more common, which is good. But I know 9 years ago, even 10 years ago, it was actually unusual.
Yeah.
People would be looking at you like you're a psychopath.
But it's far more common for a very small percentage of us that do this.
Yeah, you're in the middle of it all the time. So,
Yeah,
like, if you
it seems
expand that
common.
view, it's still
Like
probably
the
not
person
common.
that's going out for a morning jog is, I'll just run on the treadmill. It's
Right.
controlled.
That's why we have to keep pushing the message.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because back then it started as 5 kids and me, and then it grew to like 15 kids and 10 coaches, and then 16 was 35 kids and 15 coaches, whatever it was. And now it's, 15 adventure teams, 1,300 kids, 500 volunteers. You got the whole race community around it. But I do agree that the majority of people out there, if you get outside the community, they're
Yeah.
not doing it.
No. They look
They
at
need
you
to do it.
sideways. Yeah.
Yeah, they think you're a psychopath.
Sure. Of course. I kind of like that. Yeah.
I don't know. isn't it in a way, for me, it feels, if I can teach a kid to not fear the rain, not fear cold weather, to know that they're strong enough to handle it, help give them some skills to know how to navigate that, how to ride in the rain, blah, blah, blah. It's freeing. You've expanded, you've made their world larger.
That's exactly, take the kid part of it away. That's what we feel like with our coaching.
Yeah.
We want to expand that field and lift those limitations that they've already got in their head.
It's freeing. It's free, and it's also priceless because, it's such a good thing.
Did you say that you wouldn't have done Margie on single speed if you knew that a woman hadn't done it?
Yeah, I probably would have thought a couple.
And is that
times
just
about
because?
it. Yeah, because I'd be like, oh, I can't do that then. I mean, yeah, I think I probably would have put that limitation on myself. So
I
just knowing
can
that
envision
no one
how this would have went in our house. It would have been, nobody's ever done it. I can't do that. And I'm like, well, what a great reason to do it. And then it would have been back and forth for about 3 weeks. And then she would have still went and done the single speed.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Where do you fall on the buckle time conversation?
Like, can a woman do it?
No, just, we've had one time for the buckle.
Should
for
there
Margie.
be different times?
Yeah, where do you fall on that?
Oh, gosh. I think just kind of like we were talking about with Barkley, just keep it just as one. It'll happen.
And when that happens,
it will happen.
That woman's going to be amazing.
It will happen.
It popped up last year after Margie. The question popped into the group.
Yeah.
I had not even had time to get home from the finish line. And some knucklehead was posting in the group, like we're bad people because we won't change the time.
No.
And if I had had the energy in me, I would have drove to Wisconsin and kicked his ass. But I didn't have it in me at that time. But I'll say this because I literally just ignored that comment and the entire post, and I ignored the whole thing, and I generally do, but might as well just put out what I think about it here. When we set the buckle time in 2015, this was not driven by any data. It was not gender driven. It was just genuinely, we don't think anybody can do this. I don't care who you are, where you're from, what your background is. None of it matters.
Yeah.
This is the goal. Now, we have a funny way of coming in as people and start to overcomplicate something that's actually very fucking simple.
What?
I know. We're revelations today. But I'll never change it. It'll never change.
Yeah.
And it isn't because I'm insensitive to anybody. If some guy wants to come in and be, because he's got a daughter and he wants to start talking shit about that, listen, this isn't about your daughter. It's not what it's about.
I think there'll be a woman that does it.
There will be a woman.
Yeah.
100% it'll happen. And once it does, it will start to happen more.
Again, it's that 4-minute mile thing.
And it's not my place to speak from a woman's perspective, but I would say if you now change it, it's almost like conceding. And I think there's some badass women out there that don't need you to concede for them.
Yeah.
And when that woman buckles, it's going to be a fucking amazing day.
It'll be amazing.
That person's going to be remembered for a long time.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some things need to not change. I think that some things have to be constants. And I think that's part of our challenge inside of today is we're losing sight of some things foundationally should be our guideposts and, markers that keep us on course instead of just coming in and thinking we can willy-nilly change everything. Yeah. You just lose your way.
Yeah.
And then everybody's got an opinion on what it should be, and it's a total shit show. It's 12 hours.
Yeah.
Stop asking about it.
Yeah. So I think stick to your guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do you have going on this? Did you cover everything? You're doing point-to-point, crusher?
We'll probably do
Vapor Trail.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll do the Ultra next year. We missed it this year because we talked before this.
You missed a good one.
Yeah, and I really regret that too because I dig that shit. Like the grittier it gets, the more fun I get. And like even if it slows me down and I have to like walk half of it, it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, the weather was on point. The course was on point. It was good. What's the hardest thing you've done?
Wow. You got one? Because I
Yeah,
got to
I
think
think-
about that.
I think Colorado Trail has
Yeah.
been, and we haven't done it yet. It's been
Yeah, we haven't finished it.
3 times, and we keep going back. We won't be going back this summer, but I want to finish it.
Actually, I'll go a little
point.
deeper. I quit drinking about 7 years ago. I was struggling with some alcohol problems, and that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done.
I would imagine it was. That, and I wasn't like when I asked you what the hardest thing you've done is. I actually wasn't thinking specifically event.
Yeah, that was
So that's a good answer.
Yeah, that was really hard because for me, in my job, I had to be in control of things.
Yep.
And I like to be in control of things. And I had to let go of some control to get some help. And that was really tough to do. That was a pretty big limiter.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty proud of that. And I'm not a big fan of the anonymity part of that. So like, I think anonymity kind of holds people back from getting help. And so, I'll share it with anybody. So yeah. So I've been going on about 7 years. So yeah, that
Congrats.
and it's probably the thing I'm most proud of too. So
It's good.
yeah.
Your hardest thing, Colorado Trail?
For an event.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like where you went with that. I think just being a female in the fire service has been pretty challenging. Doing something that's not typical woman career field. That's been hard.
So it's that
But
career
also
field for a
very-
woman. That what you're doing is uncommon.
I think so.
Pretty male
For her
dominated.
career. Yeah.
And she'd been doing it 20 years. So imagine rewind the tape 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And she was really a minority in that field.
Yeah.
Well, what
I mean,
percentage of firefighters right now are female?
I think it's like 6, career. There's a lot more volunteer out there. And then I know even less in like a chief position. I think there's only like a handful of chiefs like at the top, maybe less than 1%.
So I'll give you an example. We've talked about this many times. And like fire service is full of like outside classes. We'll go to a different place, take a 40-hour class, whatever. It might be a technical rescue. It might be an administrative class, whatever it is, right? So you go in there and there's 30 people in the classroom and there's one female typically.
Or none.
And all of the guys come in with a certain level. Everybody's viewing all the guys as like, they can probably do fine. They don't think about it, whether or not they're capable of doing that job. They just accept it. And 25 of those 30 guys are looking at the female going, I wonder if she's worth her shit, worth anything. So she has to go above and beyond to be average, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're never average. 110% all the time.
No weak moments.
And they might not verbally say anything, but you know it when you walk into a room.
Yeah, I could see that. There's something. I think that's the common experience. Well, I was listening to you explain that. I remember this is probably like 5-6 years ago. I was riding up Benson on my fat bike. This is winter. I've seen some of this too in our events sometimes. I was coming up on a rider who was pushing their bike toward the top of Benson. And as I got up to the rider, I kind of yelled, rider back. And the rider moved to the side, to the right. And as I was going by, I'm like, hey, you're almost to the top. Keep, nice job. Keep going. It was a woman. I didn't know it was a woman coming from behind because, you got all the gear on.
Yeah.
And it's just a person. So I'm like, hey, you're almost there. Good job.
Plus you're riding it, so
She
you're
looked at
probably
me.
seeing double
and
vision.
she said, fuck you.
Was it me?
No. And I remember riding away, and I'm like,
Wow.
fuck me. How? Because what you're describing is real. It is.
Yeah.
It's an issue. Sometimes I've felt like also some women don't see their allies.
Yeah.
The reverse happens where every guy is looked at as a tool.
because they've been put in a defensive mode.
Yeah. So it's like, I think having those conversations is good because not every woman's incapable because she's a woman, and not every guy's a fucking asshole because he's a guy. You know?
Yeah.
And to not get into those polarizing positions, which seems to happen to
hard not to.
everything.
Well, yeah. And everything's so divisive right now, too. So
Yeah.
it happens.
It does. But I put a post up this morning. So this ties back to that topic. In the basketball tournament, this past weekend, we got to the championship game and we lost. And in the last 3 minutes, they kind of imploded emotionally. And it was the first time in 6 weeks that there was some finger pointing toward the end of the game and after the game, and some emotions flared. So I got them together last night, and instead of going right back into practice, we went over to Eagle Mines Information Center as a team, and we sat and we watched the game because we filmed the games. And I just made them watch it. And then as we went through the game, we were able to stop, freeze frame, roll it back, and just look at what we could have done differently as a team.
Okay.
And I told each of them that if you're ever going to, I said, the new team rule is if you're ever going to talk about something that somebody needs to do better, you're only allowed to talk about yourself. That's the team rule. I don't want to hear you tell me what I should do better or Al should do better. You tell me what you need to do better, because I just saw about 10 things you should have done better. Where I'm going with this is individually or within the groups we end up in, we do a terrible job of monitoring ourselves and our groups. We are always saying that the other person's the problem and the other group is the problem. And right now, if you look at the political landscape, it's a perfect example, right? Nobody looks within. And if each group, I'll pull back from politics, which is a quick little jump out to put the shine on it, but even in your own communities, when groups don't get together and they always act like it's the other group. No. If each group was committed to self-regulation and monitoring its own behavior and its own issues and its own leaders, because it's normally when groups don't get together, it isn't like the whole group doesn't get together. It's a few people at the top. And they got their own reasons they don't get along with somebody else. So that's kind of what we're subscribing to within our team is if every one of us is personally accountable for our own shit and we just manage ourselves to get better, the whole team's going to get better.
Sure.
And we're going to be free of drama.
It's really easy to point out other people's deficiencies, and it's a good way to hide your own. And it's a lot harder to improve yourself than it is to make somebody else look bad.
Yeah.
That's why people put so much time into pointing the finger.
Oh, we do that in the fire service too. I mean, the off-going shift are lazy dirt bags, and the oncoming shift are just, shit
Bunch
bags.
of complainers.
Yeah, complainers. It's like, let's just focus on ourselves, guys. Like let's
Manage
do what we need.
manage
to
what
do.
you can manage.
Control the controllable. Yeah.
So what's that piece with the shifts? Are the shifts teams?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's typically it's a black, red, gold. And you work one of those 3 shifts because you work that rotating schedule, that 3-day rotating schedule. So I work.
It would
that
just
shift.
be like a night shift, day shift, and mid shift in a regular.
Do the groups then rotate and
together? We stay together. So we're like, I work. There's 9 of us on shift, and I always work with the same 9 people.
Okay, and then how many groups of 9 are there?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she works every 3rd day. So she'll work again tomorrow and then Thursday. Wait, what is today?
Yeah, I'll work
Today,
Thursday
Sunday?
and then Sunday, and then
I don't even know
Wednesday.
what day it is.
and
That's what happens when you
Saturday.
retire. You don't
Yeah.
know what day it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this makes sense. So you get some like inner firehouse
Drama.
team drama,
Yeah.
right?
Guys are dramatic.
How is there like an overarching goal that everybody is aligned towards serving?
Sure. Yeah. The community. That's who we serve.
And then is that enough to keep them away from putting energy into the drama?
No. Come on, get real. We got to run calls. If we run calls, if we're busy, the drama goes away because we're doing what we love to do. But when we're sitting around,
the idle moments.
it's
everybody though, right?
Yeah.
Think about your taper weeks, how much your mind wanders when you're not doing as much work.
Yeah. Well, that comes back to, we're making everything so easy, just generally in life, where you can literally just not ever do anything hard if you don't want to.
Yeah. I don't want to live underground for 3 years and use my pick and
I
carry iron ore.
Did you listen to his, his podcast?
Yeah.
But isn't that crazy? In 37 years, he went from pickaxe and shovel to you'd never touch the ore.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing
wild.
necessarily.
And I think you can still have hard moments.
Yeah.
But I think you were onto something. That's why a lot of it, because we're not physically challenging ourselves day to day at work. I think that's why we seek out challenges like this.
Right.
Which is great for you guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think you would have gotten people to do, Margie?
If they were
60
every
years
day
ago?
they were coming here and going to work and fucking spending 10 hours in a tunnel.
Man.
No, I don't think that I would have fucking been thinking about Martin Gassett because I would have been
so tired.
3 miles under the ground.
Right. So there's a time and a place.
There is, and I think that awareness is an important thing, and that's why I like having those conversations or like bringing that up, because I took what Paul said and I sent it to Matt, who works for Eagle Mine, and I was like, "You got to read this," because he's in the mining industry. And then I saw Matt because we were over at his office yesterday. We were talking about it, and he's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "It's even crazier now because." There'll be a guy or an operator, in a machine, and he's operating the mining equipment that wherever it's 3,000 feet below the surface or something.
Yeah.
Remotely. He's not.
Well, look at surgeons. They do that too.
Right. Temperature controlled room above ground.
Yeah.
How things change. And for me, I think it's just an awareness for us to be aware of how our lifestyles are changing and then what the connected change to our resilience. Basically, our resilience and our ability to do hard things is.
Yeah. I mean, you could translate to anything like that. Like, look at going to the gym. If it was, 1940 and you were working in a field all day long, you wouldn't have the energy or the need to go to the gym.
No. And, what a luxury it is for us.
Yeah.
But along with that, it's good. Like,
yeah.
It's good we're not putting somebody 3 miles into the ground right now. It's safer, it's healthier, it's everything. So if we can then supplement the challenges outside of work, that's okay.
Yeah.
How do you think you find a baseline? Because I've told Mark, there's some things we don't change here organizationally because I just don't want to, or I don't think that we need to, because I know what I don't want to do is I don't want our culture to turn into a culture of constantly looking for the easy way, which I think is a lot of the times what we're looking for. So how do you create a baseline, going back to that conversation about, like for you, training people, how do I put it? There are certain things they have to do, certain training stresses they have to be willing to deal with to improve. So I'm saying even on like a basic social level, how do we identify a baseline of how do you make things too easy, or how do you keep a certain level of difficulty just in your day-to-day life so that for life you're well equipped?
I think through experience. I think that just kind of comes through experience, putting yourself out. Like for us, for coaches, I'm not saying you have to do all the events that your athletes do, but you've immersed yourself in very similar experiences so that you can kind of draw from that so that So I would imagine that each baseline is a little bit different. Like your baseline for the adventure team might be different than like if we were in charge of the adventure team. But we have commonalities, so we would probably come to a similar conclusion. So I think through experience, you kind of develop those that baseline.
And I think what you're doing, as people see and are drawn to events that are challenging, and then they can accomplish it, they take that back to their daily life.
Yeah,
Like you don't just shut off your grit when you finish Margie. You're going to take it back to work, and you're going to take a little harder, I think, don't you?
Absolutely. Or maybe you did before.
Well, like you've used this, we do hard things. I know our athlete Jeanette always says, you do hard things, so when hard things come at you, you're prepared for it, right? So you're learning lessons by doing these challenges outside of the challenges we choose to do, so that when the challenges that choose us come up, we're better prepared for it.
Yeah. Preparing through voluntary
Sure.
decisions to do hard things.
I mean, I guess you just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Not live a soft life.
And the more people see the people who aren't doing those things, the more we normalize people doing hard things, the more they're apt to
like
want
you
to
said,
do those.
Spread the message.
Yeah.
Oh, fearless cult leader.
Oh, the cult reference.
I mean, we too have a cult, so soon we'll be competing cults.
Competing cults. Do you have a secret location?
No, I can't tell you that.
If we did, we wouldn't tell you.
I know that we have
We've been
charming.
looking. You guys are one step ahead of us. You already bought the land.
Yeah, you have a compound. We do not have a compound yet.
A compound. Hey, I don't know if it's still for sale, but there was a compound out by Scandia for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Badass. I was just talking to Eddie about it.
I mean, is it in your territory? Because we don't want to.
Again,
we want to be cults in sync.
Yeah. Or we can just be like location 1, location 2.
We could work that out.
Remote cult.
It's big country out
Yeah.
there.
All right.
A remote cult. No, I got to see if that thing's still for sale. I'm going to find the link and send it to you. The pictures were, they were entertaining.
All right.
It's a good
I mean, we have a whole recruiting system. We have a whole network, and people have jobs.
Before a person is a dirtbag, we have to interview them and find out what they can contribute
To the cult.
Of course.
Yeah. Al is the charismatic leader, while I am actually the brains behind the operation. But we all know that women can't be in charge of cults. So that's where I come into play.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, do you limit the number of people you work with?
We have not. Right now, we are at about 30.
Okay.
And that's a pretty comfortable fit. We much more than that we would probably not. We wouldn't take on much more than 30. So we haven't actually we haven't come up with a specific number. We did take on a few more after I retired, freed up a little more time. That's kind of one of the benefits I think we have as a coaching organization is this isn't our, I have a pension, she has an income. It's not our primary gig, primary moneymaker. I think, and I look at some of the people who have taken on coaching as a career, and they have to hustle, and that's a lot of work. And this enables us to be a little more affordable, a little more hands-on, because we're not depending on it to pay our mortgage. And I'll be honest, like I feel like we get a little bit personal with our athletes. Like we care about them. Like it's not just a person. It's somebody we a lot of them become friends.
Yeah.
And I think just the fact that we're not depending on it to pay the bills allows us to do that.
How much do you think that price is a barrier for training?
I think it could be a lot.
For mountain bikers, because they'll spend, thousands of dollars on their bike, but the last thing they want to do is pay for coaching.
Yeah.
I think you look at some of the numbers out there. I don't want to shy anybody away from anybody, but like it can add up.
Yeah.
Like,
it's something that they're
$300 is a lot of money to pay every month for coaching.
And if they have to cut something, that's probably the first thing.
And I get it. If you're from a coaching perspective, if you're trying to make your mortgage with that, you got to charge that range.
It's a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Al didn't mention too, like we're coaching the Devo team up here for West End.
That's our pro bono, we're giving
pro bono
back
coaching
type thing.
And then, so there's 18.
Oh, by the way, Spencer says hi.
Yeah, Spencer says hi. There's 18 of them. And then if you include the fire department too, we're close to 100 athletes. So
if you count all them. But we don't put that, like the fire department's not as involved with as far as like the programming goes. I'm not like, we're just maintaining fitness for them and leading some workouts.
Just goof around with them.
Do you refer to the folks that you work with as athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. They are.
They're combat athletes.
Yeah.
Combat
The
athletes.
firemen or everyone?
Are you talking about the firemen?
No, just in
Oh,
general.
okay.
No, they're
Just whoever
athletes.
you work
Oh
with.
yeah, everybody. They're all
Everyone's an
athletes.
athlete.
They're accomplishing big things.
Massive
you know,
things.
an athlete doesn't have to be, a professional, in my opinion.
Do you have to be an athlete to do what the people are doing?
It depends on what you define as an athlete.
What do you define an athlete as?
Somebody who's trying to challenge themselves physically and mentally.
Could you challenge yourself physically and mentally and not be an athlete?
I mean, absolutely, you can. But
You could challenge yourself physically and mentally and not do athletic events.
Could you do the athletic events but still not be yourself as an athlete?
I think people do
And I think
Do you have
that's a
anybody
fault.
do you have anybody in your crew?
that doesn't consider themselves an
Yeah.
athlete.
Yeah.
They might not come out and say it, but I could probably guess a couple that don't
Think
consider
so?
themselves athletes. But we try.
We
to,
consider them athletes.
we use that terminology. I mean, when we're not calling them dirt bags or whatever, but we use that terminology. That's
Sure.
how we refer to them. So hopefully they can start to view themselves as that.
I think being an
that's
athlete
positive.
is on a sliding scale.
Yeah.
It's a personal journey, not. It doesn't have to be defined by.
Well, they got to break down
Anybody
some of
else.
those preconceived barriers. They
Yeah,
might think they're not an
self-limitations.
Yeah.
Mark,
Yes.
are you an athlete?
You're an athlete.
I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I don't really think of
Well,
myself as an athlete.
that's why I asked you the question.
Yeah, I really don't think of myself that way.
Yeah. That's
Um,
interesting. I don't either.
Really?
Not at all.
Really?
Mm-mm. No, I understand it. It's a cultural thing, and I get it. I'm not opposed to it. For me, honestly, because I'm a bit of a nonconformist, what my position is I don't like any label.
Okay.
I don't like labels because it limits me.
Director of adventure.
Well, I could have been, executive director, CEO.
Does the label limit? Oh, I'm going to get deep. Does the label limit you, or does what your subconscious thinking of what the label means limit you?
Well, I think the label is preloaded. What I think of it and what somebody else thinks of it. And then it creates an interface of pre-subscribed interaction.
Okay.
Well,
So like, I'll give you an example that's not athlete driven. And a lot of communities have this. There are cyclists and hikers that don't get along. Purely because I'm a hiker over here in my hiker land. And then I see this guy on a bike, which makes him a cyclist. And that son of a bitch is on my hiking trail. And I'm not picking on hikers. Like, this goes all, different directions.
sure.
They don't know anything about me. They make all of these assumptions. We don't know each other. They might see me from 100 yards away. And just simply because I'm on a bike, I'm a cyclist. And now we're at odds. That's a label.
Okay. I mean, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. I guess with the athlete thing it's coming from my experience, just growing up as someone who participated in like high level sports.
Yes.
And I considered myself an athlete, and that was
Yeah.
a positive thing.
Yes.
And I want others to feel empowered by that word.
Yes.
So it might be preloaded, but I feel like it's preloaded with a lot of positive things.
Yeah.
I agree with
For
that.
me.
I think the word athlete comes with more positives in my mind than it does with negatives.
For those who consider themselves an athlete.
Yeah. But I
Or
like
the
to
person who
convince
can
them
embrace that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we talk a lot about hierarchies here. And I think that's also probably part of my aversion with any type of label is in the hierarchy at an event. At our events, I'm going to tell you right now, I believe that there's a lot of people there who don't think of themselves as athletes. And in a typical race environment, like in a lot of these, let's say, cross-country races, where it really is about the podium and the money and the fame, athletes are put above everybody else. And then everybody else is kind of like an underling.
So I guess what you're saying is society is looking at the athletes as the people at the pointy tip of the spear.
Yes.
where I look at anybody who's lining up at the start line
As an
has
athlete.
gone through a lot of work to get there, and they're getting ready to challenge themselves. They're every bit of an athlete as the person standing on the podium.
Yeah, I wonder though if a lot of people that show up to some of those events, or not just our events, or just events like ours, where it's, let's say, more inclusive. Mm-hmm. I'll bet that you've got people showing up who don't have the time or the resources to put in a lot of work, and they're just there to take the fucking beating.
Yeah. Well, and that's pretty
And
pretty
that's
badass
called
too.
masochist.
We've been accused of that. in the early years, that's why we put the events and the youth program on different websites.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, because it was like Margie starts getting all the attention as we're trying to develop the youth program, and we're being written about as masochists, and I'm like, oh, fuck. You know, if you're a parent,
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, I can
stumble
understand that.
in and you're like, my daughter is riding with masochists? Not anymore.
My daughter is riding with masochists. Once again, name of your sex tape.
No, that's going to be Kristen's book. It'll be her memoir.
I mean, I have been looking for a title.
Oh, that's so good. That's good stuff. Are we missing anything? I've kind of driven the conversation here. Is there anything you guys came into this wanting to chat about?
I came in as a blank slate, but that's
me
because I don't
too.
have a lot upstairs.
I can't speak for myself.
You're headed right back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to work tomorrow.
After we're done here.
That, that shift thing.
If somebody I know you're at 30 and that's the sweet spot. If somebody watches this, they want to
Yeah.
get a
give
hold
us
of you
go.
guys, they
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. Right now, I should clarify, like, we're at the sweet spot being, like, if somebody's a good fit and they feel like we're a good fit for them, we have the freedom to take on some more. But we're not at the point where we're, like,
Turning people.
overwhelmed or
Yeah.
desperately looking for people,
Yeah.
you know?
You're in a good place.
Yeah, we're in a good place. We had talked about, like, expanding our advertising, but I don't know if we'd gain a lot from that right now.
Yeah.
So, because we're not like actively seeking to expand.
I would think that a lot of people that you get right now would be word of mouth.
I think
Yeah.
majority of the people we've got have been word of mouth. I mean, since we partnered with you,
That's helped.
that helped. We got a lot of people.
And I think there's something to be said for that, because even like for 906, we have not done a lot of like traditional marketing or advertising.
Yeah.
Your reputation is leading the advertising.
We
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and when people come in, it's so normally once they get pulled in, they've come in somehow through word of mouth or connections with friends, which means they're coming in not completely educated, but kind of knowing what they're getting into versus when you start putting like advertising out on blast in
Yeah.
social media,
Yeah.
you start getting people in that don't know what the deal is.
Yes.
And then you got to be like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would think with the way, just knowing you guys, I would think it'd be better just.
I think it's,
let
they've
it ride.
almost been vetted, kind of,
Exactly. Yeah. I think the organic approach, if you're doing a good job
Yeah.
and people are enjoying it, it's going to sell itself.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's how it's worked for us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that to me is a great indicator for you guys. What you're doing works. And you don't have to default to contrived corporate
Yeah.
marketing schemes.
Plus, the day this stops becoming fun, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do something else.
And I have to believe also that for you guys, like you talked about fit, making sure that it's going to be a good fit, you know, you for them, them for you. I think from what I know of you guys, it seems like you'd be okay telling somebody like, we don't know that this is going to work.
Yeah. That kind of happens
A
organically.
good example
sometimes,
is like
too.
if somebody is like, I'm not opposed to power meters. They have a place. But if we coached an athlete to an Ironman one year, and he was so hung up on his power meter, like he forgot how to race. You know, like we went out for a pre-ride with him, and his magnet fell off his crank arm, and he almost, I swear to God, I thought he was going to drop out of the race.
Well, he
because
said, this is a disaster.
It's a disaster. And I'm like, whoa. let's go back to what we've learned. Like, how do you ride? What happens what's your contingency plan? Like, and so I guess if somebody comes to us and says, I need, and they give that impression that they're so hung up on numbers and metrics, like there's a lot of coaches out there that will work with you on that. And we might not be, you'd be doing yourself a disservice by hiring us if that's the only thing you can focus on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, you touched on something, that contingency plan. Like that kind of opened our eyes to maybe we need to broach that with some of our athletes, when they have their A race or whatever coming up.
You're going to call Tony out?
No.
You should call her out.
One specific athlete. No, I mean, what if something happens that's not in your playbook? What do you do?
Let's use it as an example. Last year, she was doing an Ironman, and she had
2 years. Yeah,
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, she had a very specific nutrition plan, and to her defense, like she had some physical stuff that she didn't respond well to all of the race food, so she had her own specific one. And the night before the race, we said, "What?" And she had to bring it all with her.
Yeah.
And we're like, "What happens if it bounces off your bike? What are you going to do?" She's like, "It can't." I'm like,
It can.
It can.
And it will.
So you need to come up with a backup plan.
Yeah.
And so like her issue is a lot of inflammation with a lot of the foods that she would eat, right?
Oh.
And so
Dietary?
Yeah. And so we asked her, okay, so when does that inflammation occur? Well, usually a couple of days after I eat it. And we're like, okay, so fuck it. This is your A race.
Yeah.
If your shit falls off, here's what's on the race course, and you'll deal with that in a couple of days, right? Like you're going to pay for it, but this is your
You're
big
gonna pay
day,
for it anyways.
So like you need to have some flexibility in it, and I think these events are full of that. Like if things aren't going to go, you're out on a race course for 20 hours. Shit's not going to go perfect every minute of that day.
It unearths a lot of things that could happen, and they always happen, and not the way you think they'll happen.
Well, that's the underlying message.
Yeah.
And intent, honestly.
Adapt.
And the way that we run the events is it's not going to go the way that you plan.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be the guy who says you never quit, but you should be taking trying to overcome as much as you possibly can before you have to determine whether it's a legit quit or if you've talked yourself into it.
Well, so that is an interesting thing that you just said, because as we've done this longer, I'm the guy on the forefront that's always talking about doing hard things, and we kind of heckle people for texting quitter and finish what you start, and all these mantras that people are truly buying into and then implementing in the events that they're signing up for, and then taking some of it home and implementing it into their home life, their family life, their professional life. I've had a couple of examples at the events. One sticks out 2 years ago. Guy was signed up for the Margie 50 run. He did it. He didn't train. Okay. He's out there doing hard things. He's got a friend who's done all of our events. This friend is his support guy, and he's just in his face every hour for I don't know what the fuck it was, 22, 23 hours, doing the 50-mile run. This guy finishes, but he is a train wreck. Like the last 10 hours or whatever, he's vomiting, he's sick, he's taking it to a level that's dangerous.
Right.
Okay. So he finishes, he's got to drive home. So he hops in the car. Him and his wife are in separate cars. They start driving home. All the way home, he's having to pull over and vomit on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
And then somewhere on the way home, his wife's like, something's not right. So they ended up stopping wherever it was at the hospital. He had rhabdo.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that guy?
No, but we've heard of rhabdo.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I never shared the story before. I've never even talked about it until just now. I ended up catching wind of it. His friend told me about it. Guy was in ICU for, 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's where it goes too far. And the hard thing that I've had to learn in doing this over 11 years is that you have to be really aware and intentional of the messages you're giving people.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't go to like David Goggins level or beyond.
Yeah.
You can't go there.
Yeah.
Right.
Because somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And you got to know that sometimes the hard thing is stopping the hard thing or not doing the hard thing. And that is a nuanced message to try to deliver to people and very complicated. And then it's almost like you have to, then somebody has to think like, well, wait, I'm not supposed to always do the hard thing.
Right.
Like how do
Well, and that comes with experience, right? Like,
Yes.
and if you don't have that experience, I think we can fill in some of those gaps. You know, you get that advice from your coach or the other people who do it that have done those hard things. And let's face it, it's reality. Like, if you do enough hard things, something's going to come in your way that's going to prevent you from finishing them, right? Like, it's inevitable. And you just want to make sure it's a legitimate reason to not finish it. And even, I don't know if you've listened to David or read David Goggins' new book.
I've read both of them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the recent one, he's quit a few things, right? Like his first book was like, you've never you go until you die, right? And then, but as he's matured as an athlete, he's also he still pushes it pretty far. But he's backed off of that a little bit because he's learned like maybe everything isn't, you can't will yourself through
white.
Everything.
Yeah.
And there's a point
nuance.
where it becomes dangerous or there's just obstacles that will be impossible to overcome, you know, or virtually impossible. And, but the trick is, like, when we're at, you're 60 miles into fucking Margie and you've got a minor problem that you've been thinking about for the last 20 miles, that minor problem can grow in your head.
For sure.
And so that's where we come into play. And it's like, okay, check yourself. Make sure is this really a problem or has this problem been amplified?
Check the facts.
By your fucking monkey brain.
Yeah. Check the facts. Yeah. And I lost the thought. Oh, something we often say to our athletes is like, don't make that decision in a dark place. Like maybe see if you can work your way out of that.
You're talking about quitting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then make that decision.
Yeah.
You know, and like,
Makes sense.
Like for us, we've attempted Colorado Trail 3 times.
Yep.
A lot of people knock it out in the first try. I mean, we've had all kinds of things that have come up, like, you know, broke a wheel. Could we have overcome that? Yeah. But we got to a point where like, I don't really want to drop like $1,000 just to finish this ride. We'll come back and try again. The next year I tore my hamstring. So, that was a quit. And then last year, I think we got to the point where like, I don't want to spend the next week plus in monsoons. So,
and I herniated.
Yeah. And actually we talked to you on the phone at one point when we were out on trail and you'd said, you keep coming back. It doesn't mean you quit.
You've quit.
It's not final.
Right.
Well, and we've done Arrowhead a couple times, and I don't know if you've ever seen the 40 Below video.
Yeah.
I don't think, probably not, because I think they only play it at
Up
Arrowhead.
there.
And there's a guy in there from California, and he tries to hike it, right?
Yeah.
And he's done it. He's attempted it like a dozen times.
Hasn't finished it yet?
No.
Hasn't finished it yet. Well, I don't know if he did it this year.
I don't know.
But like,
he misses.
and that might be an extreme case, but like he hasn't
keeps coming
quit. Just
back.
so like he might quit that day, but that doesn't mean he's quit the big goal.
Yeah, he's not done.
Yeah.
He
But
keeps coming back. He
that
hasn't
was
crawled
super
away.
impactful for me, in looking at that specific
Yeah, it's still there.
event. It's still there.
Yeah. Well, we've said that, I think, even with the 906 events and the groups, like,
Yeah.
there's a high likelihood you're going to quit. But you haven't really quit until you decide to stop coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that is that, that's a good message to give people. The, God, I just had something on
It's contagious.
ego. You're talking about the guy with the power meter. And he must have just been really kind of dialed into the data.
Oh, he was a numbers guy through and through.
Big time.
Yeah. I would think, and you can tell me what you guys think about this. In my opinion, like one thing I learned when I was training with Rob, we did use a power meter. It was part of the workout. And maybe this is just me individually, and it probably is an individual thing, but over time, what I started to learn was zone 1 feels like this.
Yeah.
Here's how my body it feels in zone 1.
Yep.
And then, okay, here's what zone 2 feels like.
Yep.
Here's what zone 3 feels like. Here's what zone 4 feels like. And it got to the point where after I'd done it long enough, I didn't even need to look at the head unit. I knew where I was or close to it. So I think that for me, I would think that the perfect area to end when you're engaged in training with coaches is you're not just getting more fit, but you're developing a better relationship with your body.
Absolutely.
And understanding how it operates.
And that's the goal. Like ultimately, you teach somebody whether it's heart rate or power, what those different zones feel like. And then we prescribe it on a perceived exertion. So like if you know what a 7 is on a 10 scale,
right.
It's like a low zone 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you start learning that. Then when you're on the trail and it's dangerous to look down at your power numbers, you know what you're riding at. That's you're learning how to ride.
Do you use heart rate at all?
We use heart rate.
Yes.
When we coach, and then we use heart rate. Yeah. So
I don't personally ride to power, but I'll balance between, I don't ride to my heart rate, but I keep an eye on my heart rate to keep myself in check.
Hard mountain bike.
It just keeps you honest.
Single speeding. You're just
sometimes when you get tired, you're like, oh yeah, that's a 7.
well, in RPE, it could be. It could be a 7.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing that is, once you learn it, it's a little tricky to learn, but once you get to knowing what an RPE is, like as you get more tired, that RPE is going to stay the same. Like you might not be going the same speed, but a 7 is a 7,
Yeah.
Yeah. And learning that takes time.
It does take time.
Well, and that's, again, it kind of goes back to why we got into it. There was so much information that we delve through that's good and bad. And we try to take what we think is applicable and pass it along.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, totally.
Whether you're new or intermediate.
All you're doing is thinking about your numbers and your total stress score and all these other things that are out there. You forget why you started this in the first place.
Yeah. How many people do you think have that happen? They forget their why. They get so caught up in the minutia and everything else.
I think in this world, not as many, but like I think the Ironman world is
full of it.
Oh, interesting. Why?
It's just it's numbers driven and culture driven, and
And I think the fact that
gadget.
they push so much that it's an individual, with the drafting and everybody's race is individual, and they've, in my opinion, kind of dumbed down the bike courses. So it's pretty straight and flat. Usually that's the most sought out triathlons. Like you got nothing to do but look at your numbers. Man, if you made a bunch of turns and hills and tricky shit on there, you wouldn't be able to look at those numbers as much.
File.
Follow the course.
Right. Yeah. It's so easy.
Those are my favorite when I get those messages like, is the course really not marked?
Man.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah.
But
except for Crusher that 1 year. I don't know if you remember this. We dropped out. It was the year we did Tour Divide.
You had an issue, right?
Yeah, we dropped out of the Crusher point to point at 210 miles.
On the tandem.
Yeah.
Which was, first of all, a bad idea.
That was 19.
No,
20,
this 21.
Oh,
it was
the
right
21.
after
Okay.
we had a little bit of time left after Tour Divide. We had just finished Tour Divide, so we were super fit.
We missed Mount Arvon by fucking 15 miles.
Yeah, and we
got to one point on the ride.
Listen. So we get
Linda.
down the hill and we see Lipstick Laura, right? And she's like, "We're like, do you know what I'm talking about?"
Yeah, I do.
So she pulls
I've never heard that, but yes, I do.
Yeah, she pulls up. She's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Do you know where Mount Arvon is?" And she's like, "Oh, it's 12 miles up." And we were like, "Oh, fuck it."
We literally got to one point on the Crusher and we had 2 Garmin's on. She had
Mine and
hers and on the
Yeah.
back, and I had mine on the
and
front.
they were saying this.
yeah, hers told me said to go right. Mine said to go left, and we picked the wrong fucking
Yeah.
one.
And we missed it. It was, I don't even know what happened.
I don't know how it does that, but
We
it
were
did.
pushing that tandem up some sort of crazy hill, and we
I
were
think it
like,
was more like a construction
because
site.
of you and who you are, we're like, it's got to be right. It's got to be.
There's no stories that people tell that start like that. Well, it's got to be right.
Yeah.
that end well.
That's right.
None of them end well. Remember Casey? That's how Casey, the Swamp Boys story started. Did you guys do it that year? EX 2020?
Yeah.
So you're familiar with Swamp Boy and how he spent the night out?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
We did it right after him, and it was our temperature went from like it was probably 50s during the day, and then when we hit that Peshkiki grade, where the toilet is, it was probably in the 20s. It was insane.
Yeah, we were going to sleep in the toilet.
We were going to sleep in the toilet too, but we knew people slept in toilets because they do that on the Divide. They do that in Colorado Trail. Like it's not.
That toilet was referred to that year as the Pashiki Inn.
Yeah, I mean, we actually did sit in there. Me, Brad, you, and was Russell still with us?
No, Russell wasn't with us.
He wasn't with it. Oh yeah, we sat in there for a while, and it really wasn't much warmer, but we kind of thought it was. But it was
the
cold.
questionable part is where the heat was coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you keep the lid up? Or I don't know.
Turn the temp up. Let's
So what was do you know what the issue was with the Garmin?
No idea. It's like the Bermuda Triangle out there. So you just don't know. So I mean, we came in with our tails between our legs, and we're like, "Sorry, Todd, we don't know what happened." But we rode the longest we've ever ridden on that tandem.
We try to walk our walk. We don't quit super easy.
No.
Yeah.
But at that point, we were like, I had to get back to
Yeah.
work. Yeah, it just didn't work out. It's okay. It was
Longest DNF I've ever had. That.
longest DNF. It was like 210 miles on that.
That's crazy though. That, the tech can get you too.
And my seat broke 40 miles in, so
Yeah.
my ass fucking hurt so bad, but like we weren't going to quit until
Yeah, there was a lot.
that was the final straw.
So we used to call that tandem the struggle bus. We no longer own it. It's like whatever could go wrong would go wrong. We wrote it at Mid-South one year, and we didn't finish because it was a mud year.
Yeah, we fucking
So
did like $2,000 of damage on that thing.
Yeah, it like sheared the derailleur off. We ended up
Not the hanger, the derailleur
the
itself.
derailleur. We made it single speed for a while, and then
So it was one of those really bad mud
it was
years.
a terrible. Like, and then because we chose the tandem, they had all those Jeeps out picking people up.
Yeah.
We had to wait for a truck, so we were just
There's one truck that
waiting,
could fit
waiting.
the tandem, and then
Yeah, that was shortly after that. We're like, see you later, tandem. Have a nice fucking life.
Good riddance.
Yeah, hate you.
When Casey went off, wasn't it the route recalculation that did him in? Do you remember? It kept rerouting him.
Oh,
I think it
to
was.
like
I think it was a setting on the GPS.
yeah,
That setting has fucked some people.
yeah.
Because
You gotta turn that off.
yeah, out there's some shit on the map that they say is a road.
Oh, yeah, the route,
there,
yeah.
or it's
that might have been what was going on.
Maybe. I
a
don't
possibility,
know, man.
but that's how he ended up in the swamp. And as he was going into the swamp, and the water was getting deeper.
He's like, it has to be right.
I feel like this is like Michael Scott driving into the fucking water, right? Like,
He's in
Carmen says go this way.
waist deep water, and now his bike's above his head. He's like, "This seems legit.
Seems right.
How do we do this?"
I mean, that's the reputation you've built for yourself.
Oh my
Like we
god!
often say that we're like, man, Todd had to have some sort of, before you told us what you used to do, we kind of like kidded around that he had some sort of like warfare,
Mental
like,
tactics. Some
tactics.
fucking, like, did you ever,
Yes.
you ever visit
Yes.
Guantanamo Bay?
Yeah, like we were like, he had to have for sure done that.
There are a few people that have said that you must have been like some secret psyop
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Pretty funny. I always feel bad like when somebody has, because the nav thing comes up, and you'll be at the finish line, and you'll have whatever 200 people there who have finished. And it seems like every event there's that one guy who comes in. He quit because he went off course, got lost, and he's like, "Your file's fucked." And I'm like, "Bro, we got like 200 finishers. It's not like a special file."
No. No.
But they never
It
can.
happens.
They can never believe that.
No.
It's your file's fucked.
Yeah.
You suck. Okay.
Well, that's again goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like you got to take some accountability. Like it was your fault.
In the moment, though,
happened.
it's hard to admit
Yeah,
that.
I know.
When the emotions are rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, I don't know if you guys have had this experience with coaching, but because I've had to interact with people so frequently in high stakes, high emotion moments, what I've really learned is how to de-escalate.
Okay.
To really
talk them
just-
off the ledge.
Yeah, or just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I could say we've probably fielded more than one phone call mid-race.
Yeah.
And
I could
talked
see
them
that.
off the ledge.
I could see that. Like the first thing, if somebody comes at me with high emotion, I'm not going to reciprocate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be emotionless.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to absorb it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to listen. Just take it in. Just let them just dump it. Because typically, they'll self-level.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it takes a day. Sometimes it takes a year.
Well, if you respond aggressively, then their aggression's going to go
Yeah.
up. That's
It
just
has
plain.
to.
That's how we end up with lots of fights that don't need to be fights.
100%. It's just like if there's one skill, like learn how to de-escalate situations.
Yeah.
And we've been in enough situations like that where it's become kind of it's second nature now.
We call that. I call it responding rather than
No.
replying rather than responding.
Yeah.
Like when you respond instant, like think about angry traffic situations. You can somebody flips you off, you can respond or you can reply, and or react or respond. And if you react, it's probably going to make things worse. If you respond, you take a couple seconds and let everything settle down. You make a different decision than you would if you were to reply.
Take a few.
React.
Yeah,
Have you
take
ever
a
got
few-
tuned up by somebody you trained and they got pissed off and blamed you for something they failed at?
I don't think so.
Maybe not tuned up, but
No?
I don't know. Sometimes, yeah.
Not to
no.
our, not nobody that's said it to us, anyways.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. We're just so adorable. How could anyone? How could anyone doing this face?
Yeah. I've been blamed
Oh, I'm sure.
Todd,
aggressively.
Todd, you put it on the fucking arrows.
Yeah.
Blame Todd. What do you think they're going to do?
Yeah.
You're asking for it.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say this because you always kind of remember the loudest people, but 99% of the people are not. They're not memorable because they handled it well.
They
Yeah.
thanked you.
Yeah, yeah. It's the 1% that.
Oh, yeah.
They're memorable. There's some
Sure.
great emails that I have saved from over the years. Maybe someday that'll come out in a book. There's some fucking good shit.
That would
there.
be amazing.
Oh my god,
I'd read it.
it'd be so good.
Yeah.
Think about just since you guys got involved, whatever 5-6 years. Think of the stories from the community. If we were to put that into a book.
that'd be
Pile
fun.
them.
Yeah, compile them, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been brought up a couple times that we should do that. That would make some really good reading.
It would.
Have you ever seen the thing where the celebrities will read their critics?
They're
Like the people that say bad things about them.
that's terrible.
Yeah, but it's kind of, if you can do that, though, it's pretty cool.
I couldn't
Like, it's
do it.
pretty amazing.
But doesn't David Goggins take like the comments?
Oh, he uses them, but he fuels anger.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to fuel myself with
He's
anger,
like,
but like,
he's like running shirtless through the desert, listening to all the haters.
yeah, he totally, yeah. Mhm.
I don't think I could.
I don't
do
think
that.
I would function.
No.
I can't sustain that
Negativity.
long of an effort on anger. Like that's too negative for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, hey, how
It is.
different people will,
How they're wired.
how they need different types of fuel
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
to perform.
Yeah. And maybe that
don't know
anger
that
can
that's
come
a
and
healthy
play
way.
No, I
every
don't
once in
think
a
so either.
while, but like for long periods. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Not for like 200 miles.
No.
You'd just be a fucking raging demon by the end.
Well, gosh, I would hope that there wasn't 200 miles worth of negative things about me. Like,
You might need to.
True.
If that's the case, you might want to start
maybe
thinking
you should
about
look
how
in
you're
the
presenting
mirror.
yourself.
right. Again, look at yourself.
See, there's some wisdom.
Yeah.
There's some wisdom.
Uh-huh.
That might be a good place to wrap it up. What are we at? We're over 2 hours?
Holy shit.
What? And I haven't even peed yet.
I have one more thing before we go, and it's going to make my car ride really long on the way
No,
home.
no, 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 no. Al, no.
I'm going to do it. She's going to hate me for a long time. I have an idea for you.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Polaroll Ultra.
Okay.
I think you should abandon that
Okay.
and just do a winter Margie.
We had a conversation about that
On the way
this
here.
morning.
And she told me she would hate me if I said that.
There's a big
I'm not very
gamble,
smart,
mister.
so I don't learn my lessons.
God, how would we do that? Think of the grooming.
That's what I said.
Oh,
And then Al goes, it's not all groomed anyway.
oh, that's a fair point.
And then I'm like, think of how much hike a bike. He goes, you hike a bike anyway.
What would the cutoff?
I think you almost got to do double, Margie.
40. No.
50.
Yeah, 50.
50.
There's no way somebody would do that in 50.
You don't think so?
No, I agree, Todd. It's a
Winter
terrible
Margie,
idea.
How about 60?
50 hours. What was our cutoff
What was the cutoff for
for the
Ultra?
Ultra? 48?
You'd have to do like 60 hours.
But wow, what a cool fucking
No,
reputation.
this is a terrible idea.
No, it's a great idea.
No. Alan Marie.
You'd be training people on how to take snowshoes on and off. And
Yeah.
Oh, it would.
repack
It would.
reasonable.
bike.
Yeah, it would be.
All right. Well, then I have
It'd be
a terrible,
fucking epic.
I have a terrible idea that we want to do too. So we want to do the Arizona Trail.
Oh, yeah.
I actually thought of this.
We're going to ask permission right now.
I want to ask permission. So we want to do the Arizona Trail in 2026. And Margie's before Arizona Trail. And we thought we would do the duathlon. And we wanted to see if we could. We want to do the rim to rim portion on Arizona Trail. So you have to break your bike up and carry it on your back. And we thought, would Todd let us break our bike down, carry it on our back for at least one portion of that?
Of the
first loop
the
of
running part.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, why not?
All right,
All right.
cool.
Well, that was easy.
I thought it'd be great training.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should carry it the whole way.
Well, that was the other option. We definitely want to carry it the first loop because the second loop we'd be like, fuck it, I'm not doing that. Stupid. I'm just going to walk.
Yeah, I'd have no reason to object to that,
All right,
Cool.
honestly.
cool. Well, that's our thought.
Yeah, I like it. I like both the ideas.
Yeah. I don't
Fantastic.
like Al's idea.
She only doesn't
his
like
idea. I
it because
his
she
idea
knows
a
if
little
it
bit
comes
more.
up, we're going to end up doing
This
it.
is what happens. So this is why, like, we're never, we're a team. We do everything together. So that means that ultimately I have to do this stupid thing too when I don't want to.
You're part
He
of the
holds
team.
me hostage. I have to do these things.
Well, those are dynamics you two have to work out when you're not here.
Yeah.
This is marriage counseling. God, and
Right.
you're our therapist.
you do not want this. You'd actually be better off talking to him.
Yeah, he seems a little more level-headed.
More laid back for sure.
He just look at you with those silent eyes. Say nothing.
You got anything to add here before we split? Any wisdom you want to share from the control tower?
See?
Thinking about that athlete thing yet? I think of athletic, and I think it being more of a form of art and just movement, kinesiology. Just I don't see myself as being an art form in body movement.
That was very cerebral.
Yeah, that was really
Yeah, I love it.
That's where I was
Yeah.
for a little bit here.
Yeah, for like an hour.
Yeah, that was a great callback. I forgot we even talked about it.
Yeah. Hey, here we are.
Well, thanks for coming up and doing this.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I know you win the farthest commute award for the podcast to date.
Right. I know. When he said podcast, I was like, sweet. So we'll just do like a Zoom? And he's like, no,
Oh, that's the other rule.
you have to come here.
That's the other rule.
Yeah.
It's no editing,
Yeah.
and we will not do virtual.
Yeah. I was like, you got some like Joe Rogan shit going on here. Everyone's going to watch us.
No, I thought it was great to get you guys up here because we're trying to. You've got a unique perspective on the community because you've done all the events. You're in the community. You're working with people that are within the community. You're on that performative side of helping people level up. We keep trying to find different interesting people within the community to share because, like going to the Rogan thing, I listened to a lot of his stuff and it's great. It's entertaining. I look at it more as entertainment. But I don't remember when it was. It might have been one of the times he sat there with Elon Musk, and they're sitting there talking, right? And I had this moment where I'm driving down the road and I'm listening to them talk about their life and these elaborate fucking vacations, you know, and starships, and I had a what the fuck moment. I'm like,
Who lives
these
like
these
that?
people don't live in the same world,
The real world, yeah.
we live in, right? So that's kind of where Made Up came from. It's like there's a lot of people out here that I've met in the last 11 years that are doing really cool shit, that are living in the same world that I'm living in, that have a lot of the same, you know, you talking about stopping drinking. I've learned in our community of endurance athletes or not endurance athletes, there's a lot of people
There's
that
a shitload of us.
they've had a lot of addiction battles, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or otherwise. Like that's
And
the
found endurance.
yeah. That's the real world, and those are the people I want to connect with and hear their stories, and most importantly, share those stories. Because if somebody listens to this today or tomorrow, even if it's just one person, and something in this talk sparks something, some positive change or action, then this is doing what it's meant to do. You know, it takes a lot of time to do it, but it's worth every fucking minute if you reach one person,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because that one person and the change that they can make may reach 5 people.
Yeah.
Right. And,
And so on,
and it
and
just
so on.
ripples out.
Well, you
So-
say that all the time. Yeah.
So I want you to know I really appreciate it, because it's like, what the fuck is it? 6 hours,
Yeah.
6.5.
6.5 hours to get up here.
Yeah. Well, for us, we always seem to find a black hole and then we make it like 8.
Yeah, we suck at driving.
Was it a Garmin issue?
Clearly.
Turn the wrong way.
Clearly.
Recalculating.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll do it again sometime.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Cool.
Over and
Thanks,
out.
Todd.
You're welcome.